happy hump. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do that.
Guess what day it is? Huh? Hump Day?
I knew it was hump day. I've been thinking about it all day. Welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it is 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mack, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker with you. And second alert weather, if you're just getting up and haven't gone out the door yet, it is 48 degrees in St. Louis. So you might as well want to put a something cozy on, like a little pullover or a jacket or a sweater or something like that. Now, it's going to get warmer today. We're going to have a high of 74 in the metro area.
Do you need a light jacket? Because does it warm up a little bit later in the day? Because it feels like we're at that point of the year where the weather fools you a little bit throughout the day. In the morning time, you might need to dress differently than you should for the rest of the afternoon.
Go with the light jacket, because by the time we walk out of this door at 11 o'clock, it'll be 63 glorious degrees.
Ooh, that's perfect weather.
St. Louis. It is ideal. It is great to have you with us. We've got Blues analyst and 101 ESPN colleague Jaime Rivers with us at 8:15, and Big Game Gimme Jim with another performance on the opening drive. Kyle Gibson joining us at 9:30. So we are looking forward to that. We've got Ask Uncle Randy today. You can send in your texts. You can send in your emails to askunclerandy at 101ESPN.com. Have any questions about the fall? It's October. It is yesterday, guys. I don't know if you have a favorite date of the year. October 1st is like my favorite date of the year. The weather is always perfect on October 1st. We're into baseball playoffs. We are into the NFL season, the heart of the NFL season. We're into hockey training camp and just a smidge away from the start of the NHL season.
College football.
College football is all in. It is the perfect day of the year. And the weather yesterday was spectacular.
I did not hear you mention WNBA.
WNBA is, we're in the playoffs.
We are in the playoffs, yes.
Yeah, I kind of checked out once Caitlin checked out.
I think a lot of the country did, too.
Yeah, I think so, too, yeah. The baseball playoffs we mentioned did get started. Everybody doing okay? Anybody need anything from me? Are we good?
No, I think we're good. I noticed that Dan has his halls with him today. You do sound a little bit better.
A little bit better. We'll see if it holds up.
Yes.
We'll see.
That's the most important thing.
Hit and miss. Hit and miss for sure.
Let's talk about the randomness of the baseball playoffs. Tigers, and this is a best of three. Don't forget this. Tigers over the Astros in Game 1 yesterday, 3-1. Tarek Skubal is pretty darn good. Tigers starter yesterday. And so the Tigers roll another young starting pitcher. Cole Reagans of the Kansas City Royals, dominant as the Royals win Game 1 against Baltimore 1-0. He's pretty good. And by the way, they got him for Aroldis Chapman from Texas when they were selling at the deadline in 2023. Another team was selling at the deadline in 2023 and didn't get Cole Reagans back from Texas.
You know, you mentioned that you take Game 1 and the importance of game number 1 of the wild card series. I went back and looked at this. The team that has won the series opener has won each of the last 8 series.
Woo, there you go.
And 7 of the 8 have been sweeps. So you take Game 1, you got a pretty good chance to win the series.
Mets over the Brewers yesterday, 8-4. Mets with a big 6th inning, and the Padres blanked the Braves 4-0. And Michael King, who was acquired in the Juan Soto deal from the Yankees, was another dominant starter yesterday for the Padres. And Mike Schilt has things going there. That team is playing with, first of all, great, solid fundamentals, no surprise there, but a high level of joy you can see from San Diego.
They're the best team.
They are.
They are the best team. Fernando Tatis, it was kind of a full circle moment, I felt, for him. Felt like that for him because of what he's dealt with the steroid scandal, and then hits that big 2-run homer in the first inning. Atlanta is such a great story, though. I mean, no Strider, no Acuna, no Austin Riley. Those are 3 opening day starters.
No Sale.
Yeah, no Sale. That's another one that is going to win has won the Triple Crown in the National League for pitching. Yeah, it's a great story, but it's going to run short against San Diego.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it would have been nice. You know, you watch a guy like Tatis, whose dad played for the Cardinals. It would have been nice if the Cardinals would have been able to get eyes on him at some point and, just been able to scout him a little bit and see if they could get him into the organization.
The scouting is that he's really good.
Yeah.
And that you need him in your organization. Yeah. The price might have been too high, though.
18 workouts? Was it?
You know, his dad actually came in the booth and said, "You like my son, Fernando?" And we said, "Well, yeah, who doesn't?" And then he said, I got another kid that's coming that's better. I don't know what happened to that kid. I don't know if
he's in the White Sox chain, I believe.
Is he really?
Yeah.
He said that he was better than Fernando Tatis Jr. I thought, well, who is he, Babe Ruth?
Yeah, really, no doubt. A lot of discussion, and there's going to be throughout the course of the next couple of weeks about the Cardinals and specifically the press conference on Monday. And I want to go back to something that Bill DeWitt Jr. said on Monday at the press conference, and just my reaction, and I think what should be a lot of our reaction to what he said. Here we go.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, we've had a pretty good run of young players coming through the system. But I would say in the last few years, not a ton of years, teams have beefed up and gotten more analytical.
Okay, so teams have gotten more analytical. They beefed up their analytics department. I will go back to Katie Woo's piece, spectacular piece in The Athletic on Friday. And she led the piece with a bad fundamental play on the part of Jordan Walker. Okay? I talked about that. And in the piece, wrote, quote, not including affiliate coaches, special advisors, or medical coordinators, the Cardinals have 5 full-time minor league instructors, which marks their leanest staffing level in the past decade. That number becomes even more conspicuous when compared to other teams in the National League. The Phillies boast 14 full-time field staff members. The Mets employ 15 staffers, including coordinators for catching, base running, infield, and outfield. The Cardinals have none of those. The Brewers, winners of the National League Central 3 times in the past 4 seasons, have 17 staffers. She writes, by contrast, the Cardinals do not have an infield, outfield, or catching coordinator, nor do they employ any full-time roving instructors or any full-time coordinator positions in Latin America. Instead, a small crew led by instructing coordinator Jose Oquendo oversees the entire operation. So Mr. DeWitt believes that other teams have beefed up analytically. Katie writes about how the Cardinals don't have coaches. Okay, you can have all the analytics you want. You can have players watching video. You can have players doing things so that they have repetitive motions in pitching and things like that. But if you don't have players that know how to make winning baseball they aren't taught how to make winning baseball plays by coaches, you aren't going to win. Doesn't matter how many analytics you have.
Yeah, I mean, that's very fair and obvious. I still am really confused as to how we even got to that point. When you're talking about the difference between the Cardinals coaching staff and what's available at the minor league level compared to other teams, it's really jarring when you see that, when you notice that there's a clear difference. I still don't understand how we got to that point in the first place, because obviously with COVID, we mentioned this, that with furloughs and different things like that, a lot of teams, the Cardinals weren't the only one that reduced their coaching staff, but then a lot of people brought the coaching staffs back. Why did the Cardinals believe that they didn't need to do that at the minor league level?
I think they think that analytics are coaches.
I think, though, that they're going to do a little bit of both. It sounds like they're going to replenish the coaches in the minor leagues. Now, we'll see how many that would bring to the table. I don't know that number. I don't think anybody's got a full understanding what that number would be, but I do think that they're going to get a lot more coaches, and the verdict to me is still out on how they approach that.
And one of the other things they need to do when they get coaches, I'm not averse to technology, but one of the things that Mo said the other day is we bought a lot of technology, but people don't use it.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah. So you have to have coaches that know how to utilize it. I've told you about my nephew that was in the Yankees organization, got traded to the Rockies organization. Never made it to the majors. He was one of those people that was cut right when COVID started. But the Yankees not only have all of the analytical tools, the TrackMan and everything, all the video that you could ever need, but they have coaches that know how to use it. He gets to the Rockies, and they've got, it's just like what Mo was talking about. They've got all of the equipment, but no coaches know how to use it. So my nephew and another guy who got traded to the Rockies from Washington, they're teaching all the other players how to use the equipment that the Rockies have purchased, but none of their coaches know how to use.
That's absolutely nuts.
And I'm sure the Cardinals are that way.
I guess we're going to find out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the pitching lab that's being built in Jupiter, or the lab that they're going to build there, the fact that you get analytically minded coaches with, I keep saying this, I think you have to have baseball people there too. You know, and I know we're going to talk about Buster Posey being named the president of baseball operations with the Giants. And he said, I am looking to hire a GM that has a scouting background. There's still something to eyes on a player, in my opinion, even though some will not believe that in this day and age of baseball, I'm not one of them. I still think you need to have baseball people around kids to teach them the game.
In an amazing twist to baseball, cutting edge right now is scouting and coaching. That's how you win. And why are the Padres going to win? Because they scouted players and they're teaching players, even at the major league level. Why did the Rangers win last year? Because they scouted and taught. That wasn't all a veteran. That was half of their starting 8. Was starting 9 was first or second year players that Bochy had last year. When you look at when the Braves won in 2021, same thing. The teams that do, or at least have the perception to me of having veteran people that know how to coach, are the teams that are doing it best right now.
Do you think the handling of Jordan Walker really made them reevaluate their player development
I think
system?
so. Yep.
100%.
If you're an owner and you're watching a guy who, and Mr. DeWitt's always paid attention to the MLB pipeline and the Baseball America rankings. So he knew that Jordan Walker was a top 5 prospect. When you see that abject failure that Walker suffered, yeah, that's got to be something where you say, what the? I'm using all this money to spend on a first-round draft choice.
And Gorman, too.
And they get here and they can't play? Yeah, that's got to be a part of it.
And that's part of the disconnect that we've talked about from the minor leagues to the major leagues. These are good prospects. Mm-hmm. You can't say that they're not.
Yep.
They are good prospects, but why, once they get to the major league level, are they not ready and somewhat polished to compete at this level? That to me is the big question.
Just think about with Jordan Walker. He didn't start working to the outfield until they moved on from Harrison Bader. And then even then, we've seen those struggles that he's had defensively as an outfielder. And then on top of that, you had Nolan Gorman with his struggles last year where he couldn't fix it at the major league level. He had to go down to the minors to finish out the season. And then another first rounder, Zach Thompson. He wasn't even a part of the equation this season, and I think that he was somebody that they were considering to be a part of the starting rotation. He has the stuff, but it didn't work out. So those are 3 guys that did not work out that you really were hedging your bets on.
You know, one of the things that stood out to me, and I watched specifically, I watched a ton of baseball yesterday because I'm dealing with this sickness, so I figured why not watch a lot of baseball.
Sound great.
Yeah, I feel great. Was the San Diego game when they started going through the lineup of San Diego and they started going through the lineup of the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, the Cardinals cannot match up.
Nope.
Not right now. Yeah. They just cannot match up. Now, if you had Goldie and Arenado and Gorman playing to the level that you thought and Jordan Walker, then I'd say, yeah, but you didn't. And it's not close. These lineups are loaded in the postseason.
And that's because they've got an array of baseball people in their organizations. One more point, and then we're going to get to Ask Uncle Randy. And we'll touch on this a little bit more later when we talk about Buster Posey and the Giants. But for me, and I don't even know if this person exists anymore, but when Whitey Herzog took over the Cardinals as manager, he had been a player, he had been a scout, he had been a minor league director, he had already been a manager and a coach at the major league level. He had done everything and understood. Mike Shildt essentially has that sort of a resume. There aren't many people that have that sort of a resume that you can get into your organization. Cardinals used to have a bunch of those guys, and they don't anymore. I wonder if those people even exist in baseball anymore.
I think they do. I just don't know if they want to pay the price, both financially and with their time in the minor leagues, to go through all that, then to become a major league guy.
Right.
You know, you think about some of the players that are managers now, they weren't the guys that were making a ton of money, right? They were good players, some of them, and then paid a price a little bit in the minor leagues, then became a major league manager. Some of them became major league managers or coaches right away. I just don't know if there's an appetite for these guys once they retire to go pay the price that needs to be done to go play or to go manage and to go coach in the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, the Cardinals do have in their employ 2 guys in Jason Isringhausen and Ryan Ludwig. To the Cardinals' credit, they do employ those guys at the minor league level, and they both know how to evaluate. They both obviously know how to teach. Now, have they been farm directors and things like that? No, but at least they've got a start. And I'm going to look around and see if there's a guy that's been a major league manager, been a farm director, been a scout, been a player, has all of those things on their resume, because that's one of the things that made Whitey great, is because he understood it he could walk around baseball and understood it from every single angle that he saw.
Let's talk about it right now. This day and age, what do you think the appetite is? I'm just asking this question for a great player to say, yeah, I want to go learn every facet of the organization meaning I'm going to go down and coach, or I'm going to go manage for half a decade and then graduate to the big leagues. I just don't see it there.
It's got to
Especially
be
a great player.
Yes,
The key word
That's
there.
what I mean. Yeah, it's got to be like a Whitey or a Tony type player.
Exactly.
It's got to be. Maybe Daniel Descalso becomes that guy. Maybe Alan Craig becomes. Maybe Skip Schumacher is that guy.
And look at the kind of career that they had.
Yep.
They were role players.
Yep.
You know, those are the kind of guys that you need.
Skip might be that guy right now. Player, a minor league guy. With the Padres organization, assistant GM, I believe, was a coach, manager. Skip might be the closest thing right now there is to what Tony and Whitey were.
And on the flip side, a guy like Buster Posey immediately retires, and I think he maybe took a year off, and then was brought into the front office, and now look at what he's doing.
Right. And
so
every
did he really
day.
pay the price that some guys that you're talking about are paying?
Yep.
I can't imagine the Reds getting Skip. I just had to say that. Like, if the Reds get Skip Schumacher, it will be so
Are you
frustrating
going to
to
be
see.
mad?
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on, guys. Would you be just a little bit upset if the Reds get him?
No.
More than a little.
No, not at all.
Really?
I don't see.
Well,
if-
don't you? I want him here. That's my thing.
See,
Yes.
I don't care if he's here. If he comes here, it would be great, but I don't think that he would make that much of a difference with what you have on the field 1 through 9. I don't think that he's going to manage you 10 wins up.
And I don't know if he'll do that, but boy, he did a great job of coaching some guys up when he was the bench coach.
He's great.
You get there early and you watch him coach guys up.
Don't get me wrong, I love him, and he's a good friend. But do I think he's going to manage this team to being 10 games better? I just don't.
No, they
don't.
Well, they need dudes. Like you said, they don't match up
Need
right
players,
now.
man.
Yep, absolutely. That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Uncle Randy. And coming up, we've got Ask Uncle Randy. Get your text in, 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Ask Uncle Randy next on 101
Yo-ho.
There we go.
I'm sorry. I was kind of like yesterday with Montreal.
Okay. It's coming your way on the opening drive.
Got a question for Uncle Randy? Let him dive into his infinite well filled with wisdom to find you answers. Text 314-399-9646. It's Ask Uncle Randy on 101 ESPN.
Happy October 2nd. It is time now for Ask Uncle Randy, and we do appreciate your texts and emails and all of that stuff. Matthew, what do you got for us today?
Dear Uncle Randy, I had my, soon-to-be ex-wife sign a prenup, so of course with our impending divorce, she'll get nothing. She's now asking me to do the quote-unquote honorable thing and give her almost half. Should I even consider this?
I don't even know if they're kids. It sounds like a rather acrimonious parting of the ways for you and her. If she signed a prenup and you two are hating each other and there are no kids involved, then I would say that you don't, unless she just can't survive without any income. If she doesn't have the wherewithal to survive, I would say that you abide by the legal document that was signed.
This is very tough because I feel like I need more information here.
Yeah,
but, if you signed a prenup...
everything's changed.
Exactly. If there's kids involved, that's the biggest key there.
Yeah.
In some prenups, though, they can put if you have... maybe this is just me looking at celebrity stuff, like with Tom...
Speaking from experience? Or
No, this is like
okay.
just celebrity stuff, right? Like with Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, like if they had a certain amount of kids, she would get money for each kid.
Right.
Is that how some people do it with prenups?
No, well, that's how cult leaders do it with prenups.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I have many questions about it.
Yeah, I do too. But if it's just you and her and just no kids and you signed the document and she has the ability to get by without your income, then I would say that abide by the legal document. But there's a reason that you both signed it in the first place.
A deal is a deal, Randall.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have prenup experience?
Hell
you asked
no.
me.
Hell no.
There was a
Randy?
guy. There was a guy in St. Louis who we all know who was getting married, and the prenup was literally signed in the vestibule of the church before the bride walked down the aisle. The groom said, "No prenup, no wedding. So don't even bother walking down the aisle unless the prenup is signed."
I hope there was a conversation before
Oh,
this.
there was.
There's plenty of them.
But yeah. But,
And it just got down to that moment
got
where...
down to that moment where
Wow.
and I believe her dad didn't want her to sign, but she signed anyway, and then walked down the aisle. And then they wound up getting divorced.
Oh.
Wasn't
Maybe
that
you
much
could've seen
further after the wedding, I think, that
No,
they got
no.
divorced.
it. Really?
Yeah.
That sounds really messy.
Things happen.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Well, now I need to know more of the story. We'll wait till the break, and then I can ask more questions.
Dear Uncle Randy, as I prepare for a stint as a long-suffering Cardinals fan, oh God, that's an oxymoron, who should I look to as my quote-unquote backup team? In the early 90s, it was the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm leaning towards whatever team signs Paul Goldschmidt.
I think that's cool. Yeah, just find one that you can make an investment in. I would say that, I'm not here to make a recommendation for you, but just find one that feels comfortable. Toronto is always fun. It's a good place to go. So I would say, yeah, that's a good call.
Does everybody have a backup team that they root for?
We're going to be suffering for a while, by the way. A couple of years.
I'm pulling for Mike Schilt.
Oh, no.
I think that Mike Schilt. I think the Tigers are a very interesting story, too.
They're a good team. That's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Tarek Skubal is awesome.
Oh, my God. He was insane last night.
who
And then you have
else is
A.J.
awesome?
Hinch
A.J.
going
Hinch is
back
great.
into that situation with the Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really good storylines there.
I just love that the Tigers broadcaster is the guy who got booted out by the White Sox.
Oh, yeah. Jason
Benetti.
Oh,
Benetti.
yeah.
Wait, I mean, Benetti didn't have to go through, 160 games of absolute terror as broadcasting the worst season ever in baseball, and he got to, he got to write the script for one of the best runs we've seen in late season since 2011, 2013. I mean, that was
How about
awesome.
them? They traded Jack Flaherty. They bailed.
Yeah.
Jack
point.
Flaherty, by the way, his velocity is down in his last two starts.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's been way down. Maybe they knew something, maybe they didn't, but they gave up on him. And the majority of the Detroit team, a lot of it is homegrown.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun, too, to see the kids that came through the pipe, and all of a sudden they're helping them out. So I go with Tigers too. I'm pulling for them.
There's plenty of former Cardinals, by the way, throughout these teams in the playoffs. If you're looking for a former Cardinal to root for, just about every single team has one.
Yeah, Chris Stratton and Waka with the Royals.
You have Edmund and Flaherty with the Dodgers. You have Ozuna and Brebbia with Atlanta. I'm trying to think if there's some. And then Bader with the Mets.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody
and
actually.
Quintana.
Yeah, we just actually got a texter who sent in a picture, and she had labeled the bracket with every Cardinal or St. Louis connected player
So you got Jackson
on
Holliday.
each roster. So I don't think she went that far. I think she has like Devin Williams in there.
Yeah, the Royals have
Waka and
DeYoung.
Stratton.
Well, and Pham.
And Pham, right.
And
Yeah.
DeYoung.
Yeah. The
Royals and cheese.
Kansas City Cardinals.
Oh, no, don't say that, Randy.
It's 2 days in a row, man. What are we doing?
What? It's they've got at least four former Cardinals.
I'm just saying, you're putting things out in the universe I don't like. The phrase Kansas City Cardinals makes my blood
I think
curdle.
Bobby Witt Sr. might have ended his career as a member of the Cardinals too. 86 or something.
How do you
90?
pitch to Bobby Witt Jr.?
How they did yesterday, I don't know.
I mean, we were all talking about it in the office yesterday.
Yeah.
And I said to BK, I said, the only way that you beat Kansas City, or one of the ways, is you cannot let Bobby Witt Jr. beat you. You had first base open. You had a runner at third. You hang a breaking ball. He picks up a base hit. That's the game.
What's another thing Whitey always said in a playoff? You have a player that doesn't beat you. And Bobby was that player for the Royals.
Tony always said that this guy cannot beat me.
Yep.
He would hold the lineup card and say, this guy cannot beat me. I don't care what the situation is, but can't happen.
Like 1985 when Lasorda had Jack Clark as heck. Oh.
Oops. Why did he pitch to that so-and-so?
You got any more? Are we done?
Dear Uncle Randy, my fiance's sister and boyfriend just moved to St. Louis from Kansas City, thank God. And they've never been to an NHL game before, so we plan on taking them to a Blues game once. Is there a specific matchup that we should plan to take them to?
Well, obviously you want to do Blackhawks at some point, but let's just find a good early season game for you, shall we? That's a really good idea, and I'm glad you're taking them because everybody should experience an NHL game. It's so different being in the rink than watching a game on TV. And, of course, there's nothing like hearing a game on the radio either, which we will have.
Good segue.
Thank you very much. We got Blues and Stars coming up on Thursday night? Yeah. No. Today's the second, tomorrow's the third. So we've got, Thursday night. So let's get you an early season contest, shall we? October 8th is the opener. They're on the coast. Or not on the coast, but out west. Early season contest. How about, we don't have... Okay, I'm going to allow them to get settled here when they get to town. Let's do...
I like how you're thinking of all different angles of this conversation.
Let's do November 2nd with Chief Craig Berube and the Maple Leafs in town. That'd be fun. Or you could do Tuesday night the 5th. Tickets are probably available for that one with the Tampa Bay Lightning in town. So, those are two good early season games for them to check out.
Is there one around Thanksgiving? Those are always festive.
Thanksgiving is always fun. As a matter of fact, Thanksgiving weekend, you've got the Flyers here on November 30th.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
I would also say spend the money to get as close as you can to the ice.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
If you can see it up close, see it as close as you can get, you'll be hooked forever.
Yeah. So, and it's your fiance's sister and husband or
boyfriend.
Boyfriend. Okay, so that's a good thing too, because then your fiance and her sister can hang out when you want to go play golf and stuff. So that's a good. Having her back in town is a positive.
It always circles back to golf, doesn't it?
Kind of does, yeah.
There's always a way.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Dear Uncle Randy, I've been working as a consultant and was just offered my dream job, but the business owner wants me to wait a year and work under the guy I'm replacing while he finishes his contract. He's an idiot and has burned the company to the ground, and I'm terrified to wait a year to take over working under him. What should I do?
Okay, Chaim, thank you very much for the text. We do appreciate it.
Sorry, I meant to hit my cough button. I started laughing. What's wrong with you?
You've already signed, if I'm not mistaken, you've already signed up, right? You've probably already got a 5-year contract, so you've got it. Here's what you do, because if you're confident in your own ability, Texter, if you're confident in your own ability, allow the person that has already caused problems with said company to allow that person to just finish their bad job, and then you can become a hero for your company, ergo perhaps even your community, by turning that company around. Have confidence in your own ability. Don't worry about taking the job. Have confidence that you can do it.
Exactly. And this is actually kind of a nice situation. I know it's really hard because you want to go ahead and get started on this new job and this new journey, but you also won't have to be associated when you're talking about cleaning up the mess of maybe being associated with moving on from a big name within your company.
Yeah.
You don't have to be associated with that.
Right. So,
Even though you were already in the past.
We got to do this segment later in the morning. I'm never locked in enough at 7:30 to get those until I'm like midway through reading them actually out loud. Like I read that one in my head and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a fun one, and did not catch it at all. And then halfway through reading it, I'm like, God bless it, they snuck another one by me. We need to do this at like 8:15 when I've woken up more. Dang it! That was well done by the texter.
yeah, we do appreciate and happy holiday. We do appreciate
Happy holiday.
Hump day.
Yeah, happy hump day too.
Yeah.
Here on 101 ESPN.
I know what you're doing, Randy.
Thank you.
It is a holiday today.
It is. So there's Ask Uncle Randy. We do appreciate your texts. Coming up, let's spin the Cardinals front office forward, okay? We've been talking about what happened. Let's talk about what's going to happen next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Your scoreboard from day one of the Major League Baseball playoffs: Tigers over the Astros 3-1, Royals over the Orioles 1-0, Mets over the Brewers 8-4, and Padres over the Braves 4-0. You can hear Game 2 of that Padres and Braves series right here on 101 ESPN tonight. Pregame starts at 7 p.m. Also in action yesterday, your St. Louis Blues, as they fall to 1-4 in preseason play with a 3-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're talking more Blues coming up later on the show at 8:15. Jaime Rivers joins Randy, Brooke, and Danny here on the opening drive. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
It takes boldness and humility to get on top and to stay there. And if you stand still and you rest on your laurels for even a moment, you get beat. I'm excited for what can happen when we combine the right new faces and new ideas with the potential of the folks who are already here. There's a lot of work ahead of us. These days, given that competition, the bar for excellence in this area keeps getting higher. But the St. Louis Cardinals, at our best, are the organization that sets the bar for everyone else. And we can be again. It's not going to be easy. There will be successes, there will be bumps in the road. But we want it, we know our fans want it. I'm confident that we can get there, and I'm excited for the challenge.
That is new Cardinals POBO Chaim Bloom. He will take over operations next year after the departure of John Mozeliak as president of baseball operations. And I never thought in a million years that I would ask this question. But this is the question that Chaim Bloom needs to be asked. How do the Cardinals catch up to the Milwaukee Brewers?
And others.
Yep, but the Brewers are the standard bearer in the division right now. They've won the division 3 of the last 4 years. They're unbelievable in their ability to develop players. They've got a great culture there. They've been through multiple GMs now. David Stearns has left, multiple managers. Greg Counsell has left, multiple players. Corbin Burns has left. They have weathered injuries. How about this unbelievable record? Willie Adames tied the all-time Major League record. Willie Adames tied the all-time Major League record for 3-run homers this year. He tied Ken Griffey Jr. for the most 3-run homers in a season in the history of the sport. How do they get performances like that, and why don't we? That's what Chaim Bloom needs to ask himself and his charges, his people.
How did you guys feel about Chaim Bloom in the press conference? I kind of felt bad because I thought his speech was fantastic. It felt like a breath of fresh air, as you mentioned, Dan, off air, and it really felt like he was bringing life back into the Cardinals organization. Of course, he wasn't the focus. I know that he was technically the focus of the press conference, but then we had so much more to talk about with the rest of the Cardinals brass that we didn't get to focus that much on Bloom. But from what you heard from Bloom, what was your impression of him?
I thought he was great. You know, I mean, it's his initial induction into the public here in St. Louis, and he's done it obviously with the Red Sox and Tampa Bay. And I thought he did a good job. Now, we didn't know a lot about him. I think we're going to learn more about him, and you can read his resume and what he did with Tampa Bay and player development, specifically pitching, and you can ask the question of what happened with Mookie Betts in Boston. I know a lot of people are curious about that. Was it forced, or was this something that he did on his own? All that stuff, that's fine. The thing I think, though, to answer the question about with what Randy brought up is the next 2 years are telling. Really telling in what you do in your minor league system in developing players that come through the system that are ready then to graduate to the major leagues. My question would be to him is, what's missing and how do you get over the hump? How do you get these kids over the hump that once they're at the major league level, they're ready to compete and be major leaguers every day, fundamentally sound, still have some, growing pains along the way, which every young player is going to have, but have them more ready than ever to play at this level because they are producing players. I mean, a lot of people look, well, the cupboard's bare. It's not bare. They're producing players, but some of these players, once they get here, are not ready to play at this level. How do you make sure that they're ready to play once they get here?
Getting the most out of those guys. And you're talking about getting back to relevance, comparing to those teams like the Brewers and others within Major League Baseball. And I think to your point, too, Dan, of what you're talking about, that hopefully Chaim Bloom will be able to help because we've seen that with his resume. I think that if you look specifically at his time with the Red Sox, he was able to demonstrate his ability to check off 2 boxes that the Cardinals want to accomplish here. One, reducing the payroll. That was a theme of the press conference the other day. The Red Sox reduced their payroll from around $236 million in 2019 to about $181 million in 2023. That's during his time there. They were able to really reset and rebuild their farm system and player development. Baseball America ranked the Red Sox farm system 22nd entering 2020, and the ranking rose to 10th entering 2023.
Yeah. So that's telling about his abilities, especially when you look back on what he was able to accomplish with the Rays as well. So what lies ahead for Bloom and the Cardinals?
As Mo said, this whole thing is moving. It moves constantly. And if you want to be out in front of that curve, if you want to be the dynamic organization that this organization has been and has been for really, we're talking about 100 years at its best, you have to look at everything. There is no area of the game that just stands still. And so if you want to get out front, you should be looking at everything, not from the point of view of placing blame or pointing fingers, but just saying, how can we do this the best? How can we win at this? How can we be better than the competition? And if you really want to do that, you got to look to do that in every area.
And one of those areas, the most important area in any organization, whether it's a radio station or a bank or a car dealership, is you got to have great people. And Chaim Bloom knows a lot of really good people from his days in Tampa and his days in Boston. I would hope that he will pursue the Rays Vice President of Player Personnel, Kevin Eibach. And I don't know, Kevin, remember Bob Eibach, the PR guy for the Cubs, and Kevin is his son. And he was really the force behind the Arozarena trade from the Cardinals. He identified Arozarena as a player that the Rays would be interested in. When the Cardinals went and signed him out of Mexico after he had moved from Cuba. And Kevin is a big part of the reason that the Rays have done such a great job of pro scouting over the years. And 2 years ago, they won like 98 games. Of the 26 players that the Rays had, we think of them as a draft and develop.
Came from outside the organization.
18 of 26 came from outside the organization. And Kevin Eibach was a big part of that because he's a pro personnel guy. And I hope Chaim Bloom puts a premium on that, scouting the Cardinals' own pro players at the minor league level, and of course scouting opponents' players. That sometimes that's what the Dodgers have done well since Andrew Friedman came from the Rays to there, is that they're able to identify other teams' really good prospects that they don't recognize, people like Max Muncy, people like Kike Hernandez, people like Chris Taylor, and you get those players and the other team doesn't realize they're being fleeced.
And I love all that, but is there a way, a possibility here, and of course we're not inside their heads on what exactly the full plan is here, where we can have that, what you're talking about, identifying talent and really developing those players, but not have the payroll that the Rays have at the major league level?
The other
I'm
day,
talking about being
it's
consistently bottom in the league.
Until you know what your revenues are going to be, you can't make that projection. But at some point, you would hope that the Cardinals, if they develop players like the Rays have, that they would be able to keep a guy like Evan Longoria around and have him be a red jacket guy. I don't know. Heck, we don't even know who the ownership is going to be. And I don't know what the appetite is going to be for this ownership to pay the big money, especially if he starts winning with not much money. Then I would think ownership will say, well, why do we have to pay a bunch if we're already... And their vision of winning, their definition of winning is different than ours, too.
I'm curious about, like, Mason Wynn. Mm-hmm. At what point do you want to approach him? Do you wait for 2 years? Did you see enough this year to try to save yourself some arbitration years, maybe free agency years? He'd be the one young guy I'm looking at that I'd say I'd invest in because he looks to be the real deal. I think to answer your question, though, Brooke, and it's a good one, I think that they will develop players, and they've done that. The way I look at it is that there are a lot of 1A guys on this team. Mm-hmm. Burleson's a nice fit. Donovan's a nice fit. Are these superstars? They are not. And when you get to a point, though, that you feel you're ready to win, you're going to have to bring in some veterans. You're going to have to bring in you're going to have to spend some money, and you're going to have to go get some players because you're probably not going to be able to fill 1 through 9 with homegrown talent. It just doesn't work that way. So to me, once you get to that point, then you spend the money. And again, like you said, Randy, you don't know about what you can allocate towards that, but I don't think we're at that point anyway in looking at the Cardinals next year for sure, maybe the year after. But after that, the farm system should be providing some more players as they come along.
And at the end of the day, Chairman DeWitt has said on this air, he said, I like having stars on the team. He likes having stars that make a lot of money. But I think there's also that reality that when Mr. DeWitt is not in charge anymore, that the leadership of the organization might say, you know what? We're a mid-small market team, and we're going to act like it. Rather than act like a big market team, we're going to start acting like what we are. We're going to start acting like Pittsburgh, which is essentially the exact same city as St. Louis, or Cincinnati, which is essentially the exact same city as St. Louis. I wouldn't be surprised if they started acting like that. And Tampa, by the way.
I would be. I think they realize the responsibility that is not only here locally, but they realize this is a regional franchise. It's not the St. Louis Cardinals. It is the Midwest Cardinals, if you want to call it that way. And I think that they will have a responsibility to acting differently because, yes, they are in a smaller market city by, what you want to look at, like a Cincinnati or somebody else, which are good examples. But I do see them acting differently than that. I do.
I hope
and
so.
You have to think about, too, with TV contracts and everything, when you're talking about the regional aspect, you have to engage all audiences, the people who can't make it to Busch Stadium all the time. And if they're talking about this app that they're looking into and creating that, you need a lot of viewers for that.
Right, and stars would help bring eyes and dollars to that app.
Winning
No doubt
helps.
about it.
Yes.
Winning helps.
I kind of look at, real quickly, Randy, I kind of look at what they did in 12 after Albert left, and then you saw the emergence of a Lance Berkman or Carlos Beltran. That's what I'm talking about.
Brought for callback.
Yeah, you sprinkle in those guys moving forward. And something to think about in the immediate is that they have a lot of young players, and when you say goodbye to, Goldie, potentially Arenado, maybe Contreras, there's got to be still some veterans that hang around here to teach young kids how to play, how to act, how to be big leaguers, those kind of things. And that's what's really interesting on the forefront of my mind of what they do in the next 2 to 3 months, who stays and who goes.
Coming up, it's Take It or Leave It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Tioli next on 101 ESPN.
Let's tell you about Stewart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refinance, or if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things. Let's make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He's going to help you out every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he'll get you to the closing table fast. Try 10 days. And he'll get you the best interest rate possible. And he also has the bagel loan. That can help you out, too. What's the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy for you. So any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stewart a call. Here's his personal cell phone, 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440, or you can always Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Time for Tioli on 101 ESPN. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Matthew, it's great to have you with us. What's wrong?
It was that you paused and then you looked up and then you said your own. And then you said your own name.
Yeah, I forgot your name.
It was your name.
Well, yeah, I forgot my name.
You said Brooke, Dan,
right. Yeah,
Randy.
I was reading. I was multitasking.
What were you reading?
Okay, so guys, the Lakers have signed Belleville Althoffs and St. Louis used Jordan Goodwin to a contract. Take it or leave it, he would make the Lakers, but nepotism.
Oh,
Randy.
Take it.
I have to
There's
take
going to
that.
be some truth to that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take that.
You tell me he's not a better player than Bronny James?
Exactly.
Definitely a better defender and better rebounder, and he's been developing his shot for a couple of years now, and I think it's better than Bronny's.
Yeah, nepotism.
Lots of nepotism happening there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dad helps a little bit.
Yeah, well, hey, how did Jeannie Buss get the team, right?
Randy. All right, so I'm going to switch gears real quick here. I'm sure if you guys were watching last night with Major League Baseball playoffs, you probably noticed a new logo on the side of the helmets there with Strauss. Take it, you're okay with it. Leave it, you absolutely hate seeing the logos on the helmets.
Take it. I didn't even notice, but I just don't know what it means. I don't know the company. It's a German company, right?
Yeah, German apparel company.
Yeah, I'll never buy it.
Yeah, I don't care.
I couldn't even notice.
There's a lot of people up in arms about it.
Oh, yeah.
It takes away from the purity of the helmets.
There's a lot of Jersey police, yeah.
You get into the uniform talk and people go nuts.
I think a lot of people fear that they'll start turning into NASCAR drivers.
I don't care.
Well, they already have a logo on their sleeves. Now you put one on the helmet. We should mention that the All-Star game next year will revert back to having the players wear their home team's jerseys and not just a uniform across the uniforms.
Finally.
Yeah. Take it or leave it, you're kind of proud of the Royals with the QT, the Quick Trip patch.
I knew you would like that.
I love it. By the way, the new Quick Trip opens tomorrow in Maryland Heights.
Did not know that.
Yep.
Wow.
Will you be there?
Oh, you know I will.
Yeah.
He's probably cutting the ribbon, Dan.
Probably will. All right. Brady Cook has the second most rushing touchdowns in the SEC, trailing only Jalen Milroe. He's top 6 in the SEC in completion percentage. He's a leader, has the trust of his team and the coach. Take it or leave it, we don't appreciate Brady Cook enough.
I will take that as a fandom. We do not.
I mean, he just gets, because he doesn't hit Luther Burden every single time when he goes 25 yards streaking down the sideline. It's, he can't throw a deep ball. He can't do this. He can't do that. Guy's pretty damn good.
Well, and his team is 4-0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the key there. Mm-hmm. The team's 4-0.
And I do think that there is. I always go back to Jay Zygmunt with the Rams when The greatest show on turf got going, and they would win a game 43-15, and people would be upset that they didn't score 50 and have a shutout.
Exactly.
And he would say, people don't realize how hard it is to win a game. Just winning a game at any level. Winning a game is hard. Baseball, too. And I think that we've kind of lost that with as good as Mizzou was last year down the stretch. We've kind of lost that it's hard to win a game.
I just don't think he gets enough respect.
No, he doesn't.
Now, he's coming off a very good year, and the buildup has been so high around the program, and a lot of it has to do to the offense, which I get, and he leads that offense because he's the QB, but I just don't think he gets enough respect for what he's done.
It's because people want to see those deep passes and him connecting more consistently. That's what it is.
Which he did last year.
He did.
If he can do that again, that's the only thing missing from his NFL toolbox is the consistent deep ball. Otherwise, he could play in the NFL. All right, Matthew, what else?
Take it or leave it. Chaim Bloom will have the Cardinals winning a pennant within the first 5 years as POBO.
Leave it.
So I guess that's technically a 6-year window.
We'll leave that. I don't
Better
know if that
produce
is
a lot of
plan.
good players.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it's going to come down to. This is the model that they're going towards more so than spending money on the free agents.
And we're kind of, well, we are kind of spoiled here. We don't live in reality, really. But the Brewers are a really good organization that hasn't been to a World Series since 1982. They haven't won a pennant since 1982.
Lost again last night.
Right.
Or yesterday afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, the Giants have been spectacular for a long time. They haven't won a pennant for a decade now. The San Francisco Giants. When the Tigers, when the last time the Tigers were in was 2012, right? Tigers are a pretty good organization for most of those years. They've had some pretty bad times too. So saying, I'll just take the field and say that they don't win a pennant over the next 6 years.
Randy, when was the last time the Tigers won a World Series?
1984, right?
Sounds like a pretty trash organization to me.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Isn't that the bar we're at? Take it or leave it. We got these ones back to back from different numbers. One says take it or leave it. The Cardinals shouldn't even entertain the idea of trading away Wilson Contreras, who else is supposed to guide the young pitching in 2025. And on the other one, literally 1 second later, take it or leave it. Wilson Contreras will be traded this offseason, and Herrera Paz is the future.
Well,
so,
number one,
overall,
just like this year, Yadier Molina will guide the young pitchers, as he did. I mean, he signed to be the special assistant to the president of baseball operations with that specific charge to help the young catchers.
He wasn't around this season.
He used Zoom calls, right?
Never mind.
We don't know.
Never mind.
Possibly he was available via phone call. We are not completely sure.
Dan, how about if we just follow the money?
Yeah. I would say this: if you're going to trade for Wilson Contreras, you're trading for a DH more so than a catcher.
Or a first baseman. Yep.
Or first baseman. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling one way or another whether or not he's going to be back because of what you've seen out of the two young guys, specifically Herrera. They got to clean up what he does defensively. If they can get that, then that's your everyday catcher.
Speaking of player development, if they actually had a catching instructor within the system, maybe they could have figured this out with Herrera a little bit sooner.
I would think so. Okay, opinion time for you guys. Let's say that the Cardinals would pick up a third of Wilson Contreras' salary. So if you're a team that trades for him to be your DH or first baseman, you've got to pay him $12 million a year for the next 3 years. Would you rather have Contreras for $12 million a year for the next 3 years, or Goldschmidt at $10 million a year for the next 2?
Because of the defense, if he is not here next year, you're going to see a lot of errors on that infield. He saves a lot of errors. He is great defensively. That's not why he's being paid. I get it. You're getting paid to mash in the middle of the lineup, but you're going to miss the defense a lot of Paul Goldschmidt if he's not here.
That would be a really young infield, especially too if we add Nolan Arenado to this conversation and they find a way to move on from him. If they're going full rebuild at the major league level and they find a way to move on from Arenado, Goldschmidt, some of these other players, think about how young that infield will be.
If I'm Houston, if I'm Milwaukee, if I'm Arizona, I think I'd rather invest the $20 million in Goldie for 2 years than the $36 for Contreras over 3.
Did you guys see what Bob Kendrick said about Jordan Montgomery yesterday?
No.
He is basically the
Ken
owner.
Kendrick.
Ken Kendrick. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Bob Kendrick from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. But anyway, he came out and said one of the paraphrasing, but one of the worst decisions I made was saying, let's go ahead and sign Jordan Montgomery. I mean, he came out and said that. Yeah. I admire his honesty, but I do think that it's not right to call the player out.
He's trying to get Montgomery to opt out because he's got an option year.
He's got $22.5 million.
Yeah, so he's trying to get the player to opt out. And the best thing Montgomery could do is just take the money.
Take the money and say, here I am. Yep. You owe me 22.5 big ones.
Yep.
Take it or leave it. You'd rather see the Brewers win the World Series than the Royals.
Leave it.
Take it.
Really? Why would you take it, Rocco?
Why would I take
He
it?
went to Mizzou.
Burn Kansas City. That's why.
Yeah. So, I would love to see Michael Wacha get a ring. Michael Wacha is a really good human being. I'd love to see Tommy Pham get a ring. I'm a huge Tommy Pham.
Why do you hate St. Louis native Devin Williams?
There's just more guys that I actually know than I don't even know Devin Williams. So I just I would, and it's in my state. It's a good organization with good people. Joel Goldberg. I'd love to see Goldie get a ring. There's just a lot of good people over there.
He's got one already.
That's right, from 15, right?
Yeah.
So okay.
Give him 2.
He does. Yeah, give him 2.
Oh,
there you go. Thank you, Matthew. Matthew hates the idea of the Royals winning again.
Listen, it was.
And they have the best fans in baseball.
It was
outside of Philly.
It was a dark times in 2015 and 16 when the Royals and Cubs went back to back. You want to go back to that in this world? No, I refuse.
So just run down everything that's happened.
I'm saying.
The Cubs won the World Series. Yeah, no doubt.
That's the Royals, too.
Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, of the 8 MLB teams playing now, who has the best chance to win the World Series? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is also here too, and with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure your home is ready to go for the season. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather starts to kick in here soon. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter the season. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So call this number now. It's 314-334-2522, or go to uwd.com. That's uwd.com, and like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
Okay, there are 8 teams playing in the playoffs as we speak, the wild card round. There's still 4 more to go, but we're going to talk about the Doyers, the Phillies, the Guardians, or the Junkies. It's 8:07, by the way. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke, why are you smiling?
I like the way that you're breaking this down right now.
Okay.
And I was also smiling at the text we got because it leads into this segment. Because the last segment, you said that you were wanting the Royals to win.
Yeah, okay. So
and some people were very concerned. They were asking if you were cloned, Randy.
No, I'm not. But of the 8 teams playing right now, so you've got the Tigers and Astros, Royals with cheese and Orioles, Mets and Brewers, Braves and Padres. Of that group of teams, which do you think is going to win the World Series?
I think this is really easy. The answer is the Padres. Clearly, it's the Padres, in my opinion. And there's many different reasons. We can talk about their pitching staff, especially their bullpen, and just how absolutely dominant they are. You can talk about rookie sensation Jackson Merrill and how he's really learned to play Gold Glove caliber defense, center field on the fly. I think there's so many positives, but the biggest thing to me, the X factor, is Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt, with what he's been able to do to really turn this team around and get the most out of his veteran players, his young players, as we mentioned with Jackson Merrill, I think he is the X factor for the Padres. And he has a chip on his shoulder because obviously everyone here in St. Louis is very familiar with what happened with him and the Cardinals. And I think there's a lot of people, including myself, who are rooting for Mike Shildt to win and continue to win with the Padres and win the World Series.
I'm going San Diego as well because I think there's warts on every single team. There is no clear-cut favorite going into this season's postseason. I just don't see it. I mean, I looked at the Yankees. They have a lack of depth in their lineup. They have Judge and Soto. And then after that, who else? Because Austin Wells got cold in September. Stanton strikes out a ton. Rizzo broke 2 fingers in the final weekend of the season. The Dodgers have I don't know how this happens, but they've got a lack of depth in their rotation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Flaherty's velocity is dipped. I talked about that. Yamamoto hasn't pitched past the 5th inning. The Phillies played 500 baseball in the second half, so they're not coming in on a hot streak, so to speak. The Guardians, no division winners scored fewer runs this season. It was below the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Twins, just to name a few. I was looking at the runs scored. They don't score a ton of runs. So a lot of the pressure comes from the top. They got to have Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. Those guys need to step up and be big. I don't know if they will. San Diego, Kansas City, Detroit all come in hot. I like those teams. The Mets played in 7 road series in 1 month. They had a pair of rainouts in the last week, season-ending doubleheader, and they come in hot. I mean, I think you look at the teams that are hot in Detroit, Kansas City, San Diego, the Mets. I think any of those teams can win as opposed to what you're looking at even with the division winners.
And Dan, you look at the elements necessary to win in October. It's starting pitching depth, it's superstar quality player, and it's the bullpen.
Yep.
And you look at one of the best pitchers in the American League, maybe the best free agent signing this year was Seth Lugo, who didn't even have to pitch Game 1 for the Royals. They got great work yesterday out of Cole Reagans in Game 1. They also have Michael Wacha, who won 13 games, had a 3.35 ERA. Brady Singer had a 3.71 ERA. They've got a really solid bullpen. Lucas Erceg has taken over as their closer, but they got good years out of Angel Zerpa and John Schreiber. And here's another big thing. In addition to the fact that they have a guy named Vinny Pasquantino, they've got Bobby Witt Jr., who right now, with all due respect to people like Judge and Ohtani, who will play in the next round, but of the teams playing right now, the most dynamic player among these 8 teams is Bobby Witt Jr. And then the big X factor, a guy that was on the 21 Braves, the 22 Houston Astros, the 23 Texas Rangers. He's pitched in the last 3 World Series for 3 different teams. Will Smith will make it 4 for 4 as the Royals advance to the World Series.
Wow.
That would be something. Mm-hmm. The Royals yesterday did not have an extra base hit and won the game. Bobby Witt Jr. with the base hit. Detroit, Tarek Skubal, if you watched him and watched that changeup, I went back and looked at this. In the regular season, he had a 46% swing and miss rate on his changeup. it is awesome. He has been ridiculous this year.
He's great.
He's fun to watch, man. So those are the hot teams.
And by the way, back to the Royals for a second. Tommy Pham, Paul DeYoung, Michael Wacha, Chris Stratton. They're kind of like Cardinals West over here. And so if Tommy Pham can get a ring, I'm all for it. If Michael Wacha can get a ring, I'm all for it. If Paul DeYoung can get a ring, I'm stunned, but all for it. And then Chris Stratton.
Stunned, but all for it.
Yeah, well, wouldn't you be kind of stunned?
I guess so, but I mean, he's part of it.
Paul DeYoung playing on a World Series, it would be a fun stun, but it did happen. There you go.
It's okay if I get to this text real quick, because I think this is a question that we should expand upon. From the 636, I like how everyone at this station criticizes the Cards for the just get in mentality, but then picks wildcard teams to win because they're hot. The Padres, just for an example here, the Padres, after the All-Star break, one of the best teams in all of Major League Baseball, especially record-wise, even if you look at their hitting statistics, everything like that, one of the best teams in all of Major League Baseball and with what they were able to do.
Yeah, they're great, and they're one of...
There is a lot, though, to the momentum conversation.
They're better... The Padres are better than the Brewers, and they're better than the Braves or Mets, right? They would have won either of those divisions, right? The Central or the East, if they played in those divisions. The Padres are a really good team. I respectfully disagree, and I wish you would... Well, I'm not going to say we should listen more closely, but who has said more than me that there's randomness
Just
in the postseason?
get in.
Yeah, how many people have? How often do I have to say that last year the representative of the National League in the World Series was the Arizona Diamondbacks, the 6th seed. In 2022, it was the Phillies, the 6th seed. In 2021, it was the Braves, the 6th seed. I leave out 2020 because it was a COVID year. 2019, it was the Nationals. I'm all about just getting into the playoffs, and I believe in the randomness. I've never criticized the Cardinals for not winning the postseason, because I do believe if you make the postseason, the facts bear it out, that you have a really good chance to go to and win the World Series.
There wasn't a 100-win team this year.
Yep.
So it was, there's more parity, I think, going into this postseason than we've had in a while.
Dan, you and I covered every single Tony La Russa team in St. Louis. Would you agree with me that his two worst playoff teams were in 06 and 11?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think there's any doubt. And the Cardinals have won the World Series both of those years.
Yeah, it was 6. They got healthy finally.
Yeah, best teams were 04 and 05.
Yep.
And look at the guys who were on those teams, too.
Yeah. So that helps.
Those were real stars.
Yeah, it helps having guys.
I mean, you got hot at the right time. In 06, you finally got healthy. And then in 11, they made the remarkable run just to get in.
Right.
And they were a hot team. That's how they won.
So there is a lot to be said. But I think Cardinal fans right now, heck, the team isn't doing enough to even get into the playoffs. So I have no problem in battling for and competing for division titles, but they aren't even competing right now. They're trying to stay above 500, which is not where you win the World Series.
The stars, the difference makers, because with all the teams that we talked about, wild card teams that we are looking at here, there's clear stars on those rosters.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at the amount of shortstops that are playing not shortstop for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, right.
It's incredible, the athletes that they have on that team.
And I believe last I checked, I think of the top 50 prospects, according to MLB Pipeline, I think like 18 of the top 50 prospects were shortstops. So those guys are going to get moved.
Absolutely. They're good athletes.
Yeah,
they'll find a spot.
You find a spot for them. That's today's Fresh Take here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, we are going to talk to our colleague and Blues TV analyst, Jaime Rivers. Rivs talking some Blues next on 101 ESPN.
Come and see why T.R. Hughes is St. Charles and now Warren County's premier home builder. trhughes.com.
Just one more day to wait for some more NFL football, but today we have plenty of baseball, and that means it's time to get your entries in on Underdog Fantasy. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by competing on Underdog. And why did so many people get involved? Because it's so easy, and the odds are fantastic. You just put in your entry, you just log on to Underdog Fantasy, and you can put in your entry for whatever sport you want to. Yesterday, we went with one entry per game in the 4-game MLB slate. Today, I'm going to go game by game, so we're going to start it off with the early game. We have the Astros playing the Tigers. We're going to go with higher than 1.5 total bases for St. Louis native Matt Vierling, and they were higher than 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs for Jose Altuve, because when the Astros need a big game, he always seems to come up with a hit at some point in it. So higher than 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs for Jose Altuve, higher than 1.5 total bases for Matt Vierling. We're building an entry for our baseball today, because tomorrow, that's when we jump in with our entries for Thursday Night Football. And heck, you can already jump on Underdog Fantasy right now and build those NFL entries for Thursday night and for the Sunday slate. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. You just can head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC. Underdog is going to give you a free pick to use in your first Cash Champions entry. You can just add it to the entry we just built, and they're going to give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC. Claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present today when Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer the play call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
ESPN has your chance to score free tickets to see Brooks and Dunn.
We're Brooks and Dunn.
With special guest David Lee Murphy on Friday night, April 25th at Enterprise Center. Find all the ticket details and find that chance to win those free tickets for Brooks and Dunn right now, either at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Tomorrow night, you'll hear it here on 101 ESPN. Blues moving ever closer to the start of the regular season. We're less than a week away, and we head to the celebrity line now. Our friend, colleague, and the analyst for Blues hockey on Bally Sports, Jaime Rivers, joins us. Rivs, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, guys. How's everybody doing there?
Everything's doing good. Okay, let's start with this. When you get to this point, when you're less than a week away from the start of the regular season, how are players feeling? Are you kind of tired now of training camp and playing games and ready to get going with the real thing, or does it take a few more days?
Yeah, no, obviously veteran guys are probably a little tired of the training camp process. But, in all honesty, the Blues have done a really good job this year of kind of spacing out the games played by veteran players and making sure that they're not playing in 4 or 5 of these preseason games. And if guys have little bumps and bruises, they're not forcing them to play. They're letting them work through it. And they've put a lot of their focus on really good, intense practices. So as far as the Blues are concerned, I think those guys are fine. Of course, you'd like to see preseason end, because now that you've had a chance to play some games, you've got the itch to really get after it. And when that happens, you want those games to matter.
Last night, the Blues with a loss to the Blue Jackets. And I know it's just preseason play, Jamie, so I'm not trying to put too much stake into this, but it seemed like Drew Bannister was pretty disappointed in the performance overall, saying that he was disappointed and thought they took a step forward in the last preseason game and took a step back in this one. What did you see from that game last night?
Yeah, a little disappointing, because at this point, you've still got some guys that are competing for jobs. And a lot of those guys were in that lineup last night. So if those are the guys that are supposed to be competing for jobs, and you're getting an effort that is, not up to the standard that you want it to be, then bad news for some of those players. You're making the decisions easy for management at that point. And for Drew Bannister overall, like, this is the point of training camp and preseason where you want to see your team start to take shape. Like he said last night, 1 week from today, we're in the regular season. Like, we're in it at that point. And if we play like this, it's just unacceptable. So, yeah, there's a little concern there that you're at this point of preseason and you have guys that, again, are supposed to be hungry for jobs, and you come up with a less than perfect effort.
I think it's interesting, Jamie, that Bolduc is in a top 6 role right now, and with the Blues starting on the road, it could make the matchups late in games really interesting because you'd have a young guy on the ice. Have you thought much about that and how he fits in the picture with maybe that first road trip?
Yeah, I think sometimes people read into some of the matchups just a little too much. Like a good coach many years ago, you might have heard of him. His name's Scotty Bowman. And he used to say that...
Write that. How do you spell that?
Yeah, that's Scotty and then Bowman, Bowman. You can Google him. He's coached a few games,
Thank
Randy.
you. Okay, appreciate it.
He used to say, why are we worried about the matchups? Let's make them worried about the matchup. And so he would play his lines, just play them. No matchups, and force the other team to worry about the matchups at that point. And so with a young player like Zach Bolduc, who's very dynamic, great speed, and, man, Dan, I'll tell you what, this guy can shoot the puck. Like, he's one of those guys that – I'm not going to compare him to Brett Hull because that's a one-of-a-kind. But the puck just jumps off of his stick. And he's not a big guy. He's not a, overbearing guy as far as, like, being strong. But, man, can he shoot the puck. And I think that if he gets the opportunities – to shoot the puck, he's going to do it. The young man knows, he's like, I know I can shoot the puck, and I'm going to try and throw a lot of volume at the net. If that's the case, then as far as the matchups are concerned, other teams are going to be looking to play their defensive guys out there, and then you don't have to worry about Bolduc in a defensive role. You just have to tell him to go out and shoot the puck.
So if he does what you hope that he could do from a potential standpoint, last year in the last 4 months of the season, we can all agree that Jordan Kyrou didn't have a good first couple of months, but he was on a 40-goal pace in the last 4 months of the season. And you have Buchnevich and some other ancillary guys. Jake Neighbors scored 27 goals. Do you think there are enough dynamic scorers on this team to make it a really competitive group offensively?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, Army has said this before, death by 1,000 cuts. And I think that what the Blues have done a real good job of is stocking the team full of guys who can score. I'm not going to call them goal scorers because those guys are few and far between. Like, I do believe Jordan Kyrou is a goal scorer. But other guys can score goals because Pavel Buchnevich, who doesn't even consider himself, a goal scorer, he put 30 up just a couple of seasons ago. Robert Thomas put 30 up. Jake Neighbors, 27. If you've got Zach Bolduc, who gets somewhere between 15 and 20. Braden Shen gets his 20. We know Brandon Saad is going to get his 20 because that's what the back of his hockey card tells you he's going to do. That's a lot of guys that are putting pucks in the net. And if you can get a little more offense from your blue line this year, I think this team can keep up by scoring goals. The big question, Randy, quite honestly, is will they be able to score more goals at 5-on-5? Because last year it just was not good for the Blues. For whatever reason, 5-on-5 scoring was something that hindered them. And, they've got to figure out why that happened, and they've got to figure out how to change it. But if they can, and maybe it's with more players who can score goals. Heck, I forgot about Holloway, too. Holloway might be a 15 to 20 goal guy. So I think the Blues are fine. But, again, the caveat to that is going to be, have they figured out some of their 5-on-5 offense?
What about Texier? It seems like he's moved up in the lineup, too, and has made a big impression on the coaching staff.
Yeah, he's got great speed. He's tenacious on the forecheck. He's not afraid to shoot the puck. We've seen that in the one game that he played. I think he had 6 shots on goal, so he's not afraid to shoot the puck, which I like. I think expectations for him would be if he could score 10 goals this year, maybe 15, because let's not forget, not all of these players are going to be playing in roles where they get a ton of ice time or power play time. And just because we like the player and just because we think they're good or fast, there's only one puck out there and only 5 guys on the ice at one time that can do it. So you've got to remember that even if Texier plays in a limited role and he gets 10 goals, that helps your hockey club a lot. And the biggest thing that I've noticed, guys, this team is bigger as far as the size is concerned and faster. They zip around out there. Like, this is team speed that I have not seen in a few years. for the St. Louis Blues. That includes the Cup year, because we know even though that team won the Stanley Cup, it wasn't the fastest team on the ice. They were big, they were physical, they were strong. But this team has got some size and real good speed right now.
And, Jamie, they have the benefit of pretty good goaltending tandem. How do you think they're going to split that up this year with Bennington and Hofer? Hofer made the start last night, obviously, but they got a couple of good ones. How do you think they split that up?
Yeah, I think what Benner get last year, I think 50 starts.
Yeah.
I think that's the number. I'd like to see, somewhere between 45 and 50 starts for Benner, and then you give a couple more to Hofer. I mean, you have to understand that Jordan Bennington is your number one guy, and boy, did he play like it last year. And I expect much the same this year. He is dialed in, super focused. Jordan Bennington learned a lot about himself. Not this offseason, the offseason before. He really dove back into, focusing on him, what he can do better, how he can train better, how he can focus better. And we saw the results of that last year. Well, he's continued this, self-awareness tour, I'll call it. And he's looking to have another strong season. So if that's the case, you can't start pulling games away from one of the best goalies in the league. You just have to kind of slowly, gently find some occasions where you slip an extra 1 or 2, maybe 3 starts over to Hofer.
All right, Rivs, we know you have less than a minute left, so one more hot take from you. This is a back-in-my-day question. Back in my day, heck, when the Ottawa Senators started their new existence, they didn't allow players to have numbers above 31. Are you kind of tired of all these 80s, 70s, and 60s? Do you wish we could get back to our day when you wore a number 6 or a number 20?
You know what, Randy? I'm like the ultimate hypocrite when it comes to this, and I'll tell you why. Because, and Randy, you'll know this. Dan, you certainly know this. When I came into the NHL, I had long hair, earrings, tattoos, all this stuff that was like, no way, not back in my day.
It was a hell of a mullet.
But then on the flip, oh yeah. But then the flip side of it is I'm Mr. fancy number guy. Like, how are you the guy that did your own thing, and now you're sitting there criticizing some of these young guys for their numbers? So I really don't care, Randy. At the end of the day, if I'm running an organization and a kid comes in and says, hey, I want to be number 77, I'm going to say, you better go out there and play like a damn number 77. Because if you play like a 51, then you're out of here, buddy.
Andrei Kovalenko was actually pretty good for a while.
He was.
How about pulling that one out? How about pulling that 51 out of there?
That's a good one. Well done, Randall.
Thank you, Rivers. We'll talk to you later. And so the first game is not a Bally game, right? The next Tuesday is an ESPN, or do you guys have it?
Yeah, no, we don't have it. Okay. They're trying to keep us on the shelf a little longer. Our first game with Bally's will be in Las Vegas, I believe.
Okay, we'll be tuned in. Have a great day. We will talk to you later.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. That is Jaime Rivers, Blues analyst here on 101 ESPN. Is that like the worst boomer take ever?
Yeah. It's bad.
It is, I know. Peter Klima wore 85 because he was born in 85, I think. 95, 05?
So do you want more like how Jamie was? You want those low numbers?
Well, you can't do it anymore because of all the retired numbers, but I think there should be a max. Like, give Bennington number 50, but everybody else has to wear a number below 50.
So at what point do we just reshuffle the numbers out there and say, okay, number whatever is retired, but we're still handing out this number? I mean, the Yankees are going to run into that problem.
They are.
Cardinals are going to run into that problem at some point.
Yeah. I don't know when you do. I don't know what you do. You're going to have guys like when the Cardinals retired number 9 for 2 guys, right?
Right.
Slaughter and Joe Torre. Yeah, I don't know. But there's some teams that do have Peyton Manning wore Frank Tipuca's number 18 with the Broncos. Maybe you just have to reissue a number now and then.
All right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
That makes a lot of sense. How great was Jamie's mullet back in the day, by the way?
It was spectacular.
It was spectacular.
It really was.
That 5 question still makes me angry.
Which one?
The stupid retired number 18 in Denver one.
Oh, because I got it right. Right?
Sure. That's why I hate it.
Yeah. That happens.
It wasn't retired for Peyton, though.
Speaking of the fight, and they did retire it for Peyton also. It's retired for 2 people now. Speaking of the fight, we've got one coming up, and we need a fighter. If you would like to fight me, you are welcome to try. All you need to do is text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, and put your name and the word fight, and maybe Matthew will pick you to fight me next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, my friends at Schnucks are having another special big 3-day sale with red-hot deals. The Schnucks Deals and Steals 3-day sale is this week, and when you go into Schnucks on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday this week, you're going to see big money off. These are special sales on items that you love. Check some of these out. You will be able to get Red Baron pizzas for just $2.99, limit of 6. That's a pretty cool deal. $2.99 a piece for Red Baron pizza, limit of 6. Now, pair that up with some Pepsi or Starry or Mountain Dew cubes, just $9.99 each when you buy 2. Plus, fresh bone-in half pork loins are just $1.39 a pound when you go to Schnucks this weekend. Take advantage of these incredible deals. These are tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday when you go to Schnucks, and you can enjoy this weekend some of that Red Baron pizza, some of that Mountain Dew or Starry or Pepsi, and, of course, grill up some of those fresh bone-in half pork loins for just $1.39 a pound. It's the amazing 3-day sale at Schnucks. Get there this weekend.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yesterday, day 1 of the MLB playoffs. Tigers 3-1 over the Astros. Royals 1-0 over the Orioles. Mets 8-4 over the Brewers, and Padres 4-0 over the Braves. The Braves will look to jump back into that series and even up tonight right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame for that matchup starts at 7 p.m. And last night, the Blues fall to 1-4 in preseason play as they fall to the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-1. Later on today, you can hear more Blues talk as Jaime Rivers joined Brooke, Dan, and Randy here on the opening drive. You can catch that always on our Dobbs Tire Centers Auto Centers podcast on 101ESPN.com. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent Mexican heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocky here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter today is Chris this morning. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I saw via the text line that you're from Naples, Florida, I believe, or that's where you currently reside. Is everything okay down there with the hurricane?
Everything's good. Yeah, I lived in St. Louis most of my life and moved down here about 4 years ago. But I stream every day, listen to you guys all the time.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight?
It is not. I'm 0-1.
Oh, any advice, Dan, going into this?
No, just get the puck deep, be physical, bodies in front of the net, give 110. That's all I got for you.
You got it.
All right, good luck.
Here we go with question number 1, Chris. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, here we go. At which school did Antonio Gates play college basketball, going to the Elite Eight as a 10 seed in 2002 and finishing his senior season with 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists? Is it Michigan State, Xavier, or Kent State?
I'll go with Michigan State.
All right, question 2. Since World War II, there are only 2 Cardinal pitchers to log a sub-2 ERA across a full season. Bob Gibson with a franchise record 1.12. And who else? Was it Steve Carlton, Bob Tewksbury, or John Tudor?
Oh, boy. Let's go with Steve Carlton.
Final answer, Chris?
Final answer.
All right, on to question 3.
The Cardinals have played in 19 World Series facing 9 different clubs. Who is the only club that they have faced exactly twice? Is it the A's, the Twins, or the Tigers?
I was thinking the Tigers off the bat, so I'm going to go with the Tigers.
Who owns the record for strikeouts in a single season World Series game? Is it Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax, or Tom Seaver?
Let's go with, I was thinking Bob Gibson, but I think Tom Seaver might have that. So let's go with Tom Seaver. Final answer.
We'll double check our score. How are you feeling, Chris?
Thank you, Dana.
Average.
Average. It sounds like you went with your first instinct. Here comes Randy.
Yeah, I tried.
Here comes Randy in right now, and I do not see any grapes.
They're all
today.
gone, Brooke.
Oh, they were already devoured.
They were. I destroyed them.
Say hi to Chris, Randy.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Randy. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for playing this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
He streams us every day.
Love that.
He's down in Naples, Florida.
Oh, beautiful. That's amazing. Last time the Cardinals were sold, Jerry Ritter, late great Jerry Ritter, great guy, and Bill DeWitt Jr. were neighbors, and they would walk around the block in the morning negotiating the sale of the Cardinals from Anheuser-Busch to the DeWitt family.
I did not know that.
Yep. So,
1995.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. So Naples, famous place in St. Louis baseball Cardinal history.
You ready for question number 1?
Ready.
At which school did Antonio Gates play college basketball, going to the Elite Eight as a 10 seed in 2002 and finishing his senior season with 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists?
I'm going to go with the alma mater of Chris Kerber. I'm going to go with Miami of Ohio. I'm going to go with the cradle of coaches, Miami of Ohio.
Are you ready for question 2?
I am, sir.
Since World War II, there are only 2 Cardinals pitchers to log a sub-2 ERA across a full season. Bob Gibson with a franchise record of 1.12. And who else?
I'm going to go with 1985's version of John Tudor. Dan, I'm going to go.
But also known as John Tudor?
Yes, John Tudor.
Okay.
Who was spectacular that year, and I believe he had a 1.93, if I'm not mistaken.
Question 3.
The Cardinals have played in 19 World Series, facing 9 different clubs. Who is the only club that they face exactly twice?
Exactly 2 times for the Cardinals. Dos in the World Series. Well, let's see. Could it be the Tigers, whom they faced in 1968 and 2011 or 2006? They have played the Rangers once. They have played the Red Sox multiple times. They have played the Yankees, I believe, definitely more than twice. So I'm kind of... They played the Browns only once. So the Tigers seem like a fair one here because I don't know if the Tigers were great in the 30s or 40s. Let's see. I don't think the Cardinals have played the A's in the World Series. So, well, let's just go a little thought process here. Tigers are probably going to be my choice. Well, yeah, they beat the Red Sox. And they played the Red Sox at least 3 times because they played 04, 13, and 67. So it's not the Red Sox. So Red Sox, Yankees, Tigers. Yeah, I think I'll go with they played the Royals with cheese one time. I don't think the Royals had cheese then. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers.
Final answer?
Yeah, I guess.
Question 4. Who owns the record for strikeouts in a single season? Excuse me. Who owns the record for strikeouts in a single World Series game?
Is this a serious question?
Maybe an anniversary of this guy's historic feat.
And I'm going to go with number 45, Bob Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals against said Detroit Tigers in Game 1 of the 1968 World Series. That's a total guess on my part that he had 17.
Just shut up.
Total guess, but I'm making the guess right now. Final answer.
Matthew, do your thing, please.
We have a winner in today's fight. Chris trying to even up the score with a 1-1 series today. Can he get a win against Randy Carricker, or does Megamind walk away with another victory? Which I don't like because he played with his food, and I don't appreciate that, Randy. Some people don't know the answers, hence why it's on the sheet. Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
Just win, baby. It was super quiet, and I was like,
oh, did you think that it was going to say brought to you by Golf Discount of St. Louis?
No. I was very confused because your bear was super quiet, and it was potted up, and I was
win, baby.
It was super quiet. I didn't know if a cord wasn't plugged in or something like that. I turned it up a little bit. I'm sorry, Chris. Randy Carricker beat you by a score of 2-0 today.
Ouch. Yeah. Dang. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that one.
Thank you, guys.
We'll go through the questions and answers. At which school did Antonio Gates play college basketball, going to the Elite Eight as a 10 seed in 2002 and finishing his senior season with a 21-7-4 line? You guys had college, I think you said the cradle of coaches, not Miami, Ohio, but there have been a lot of good coaches to come out of Kent State University.
Kent State,
he went to actually play.
I knew it was in Ohio.
He went to actually play for basketball and football at Michigan State when Nick Saban was the coach, who of course went to Kent State, at Michigan. When he got to Michigan State, Nick Saban said, "You're playing football and you are only playing football." And he said, no, I'm going to go play basketball. And I feel like he would have gone to the NBA after finishing a season with 21-7-4 because he was a tweener back in 2004. But I feel like right now he'd fit perfectly in the NBA now. Since World War II, there are only 2 Cardinals pitchers to log a sub-2 ERA across a full season. It's Bob Gibson with a franchise record 1.12. And I had 1.9 down for John Tudor, but Randy, you're correct, 1.93. You took it to the next decimal point. Nicely done. John Tudor in 1985 with a 1.93. The Cardinals have played in 19 World Series, facing 9 different clubs. The only club that they have faced twice is the Athletics, beating them in the 1930 and 31 World Series. They played the Tigers in 34, 68, and 06, winning in 34 and 06, losing in 68. And the only other teams they've played multiple times are, in fact, the Red Sox and the Yankees quite a bit throughout their history. And the record for strikeouts in a single World Series, it is, of course, Bob Gibson, who broke Sandy Koufax's record. He struck out 17. Koufax had struck out 15. And today is the anniversary of not only the Game 1 of the 1968 World Series, but Bob Gibson's passing back in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he passed away on the same day. He threw their 17 strikeouts. Yep, 2020, 1968, those 2 dates. It's a big day, October 2nd, for Bob Gibson. So obviously, RIP, rest in power to the big man, Bob Gibson, and a nice 2-1 win for Randy Carricker today. Chris, thank you so much for joining the fight and joining the show today.
Randy, I need to apologize.
Yeah.
I told you to shut up, but I meant it with all due respect.
That's okay.
Okay.
You just said that's
With all due respect.
If you say with all due respect, you can say anything you want.
You can say anything you want.
Randy, the problem is you toyed with your food on a question that the listener didn't get right. And so your thing is like, how is this a serious question? It's like, well, Randy, Some people don't get it. Some people, he even said, he goes, I know Bob Gibson half the record, but I think Tom Seaver broke it. Hence why I put Tom Seaver there as an option to mess with people's heads.
Oh.
So, don't toy with the food.
Yeah, you don't toy with the food. It's a good way to put it, Matthew. Very well done. Somebody said it was like a mouse with cheese.
Yes, that's a good
I'm sorry.
Or
you're
a
not.
better way, a cat with a mouse.
There you go. That's another way to look at it.
Randy, you're not sorry.
You're not sorry one bit.
Sorry.
Ah, shut up.
Coming up, the Giants hire Buster Posey as their POBO. Is that the way baseball should be going? That's next on 101 ESPN. I want you to know about Chesterfield Fence and Deck. If you're interested in a home improvement for your home, enhance the value of your home with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They've been around for 56 years, and especially at this time of year, if you're thinking about maybe enclosing your deck and providing yourself a sunroom or a screen room, it's a great way to go. Have Chesterfield Fence and Deck out, and they'll take a look at your house. They'll do the measurements on your current deck and give you great ideas about how you can make a sunroom with a big screen TV in there, and you can put a ceiling fan up, and you can make it very comfortable and a very useful room all year round. They'll come out and provide you a free, no-obligation project design and show you pictures of jobs that they've done in the past that will really give you some great ideas as to how you can improve your home. You can find Chesterfield Fence and Deck on the web at chesterfieldfence.com, or you can call them at 800-300-4054. And when you decide to use them, mention this show and get 20% off your next outdoor project that's installed by Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Again, the number, 800-300-4054. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best. on the day that the Cardinals announced that Chaim Bloom will be their next president of baseball operations, the Giants hired a former star player of theirs, a three-time world champion, former Rookie of the Year, Buster Posey, as their president of baseball operations. They had high hopes for Farhan Zaidi when they hired him away from the Dodgers, and he was an analytics darling. And now they've gone away from that. He hired, by the way, Zaidi, another analytics darling, as Gabe Kapler, as the manager of the club. Well, now they've kind of done a 180. Bob Melvin is their manager. He is decidedly old school. And Buster Posey is a disciple of Bruce Bochy in terms of the way he approaches the sport. So the Giants, while the Cardinals say that we need to catch up analytically, the Giants seem to be going at very best for analytics people towards a hybrid, and at the worst for analytics people back towards old school. And it's really going to be an interesting case study, because you've got one guy in Texas, and Chris Young, former major league pitcher, who's brilliant and is analytically inclined. He's an Ivy League guy. With no offense towards Florida State, Buster Posey is not an Ivy League guy. I will be very interested to see what approach Buster Posey takes, and if this, as Greg Amsinger has suggested before with Chris Young, if this starts a copycat situation in baseball where more former players find their way into running baseball operations departments.
This is a very unique situation, because in a span of 2 years, Buster Posey has gone from joining the Giants ownership group and being a part of its board of directors to now taking over that role of being president of baseball operations. I think a lot of other teams, to your point, Randy, will be watching this. Now, I think the key here is the hybrid portion that you're talking about. I don't think a player who came up in 2009 and retired in 2021 would hate the idea of advanced metrics, but then he has that background, of course, of being a player who's been there, done that, and he'll be able to bring that experience. I think the key here will be who he hires as his GM.
Well, he said that GM is going to have a background in scouting, for sure. Mm-hmm. And he wants that to be a part of that position. You're both right. Hybrid is probably the right way to phrase this, because he did say in his press conference yesterday, analytics are here to stay. Yes. He said, so that's part of the game. He said, but there's still a place for scouts, and he wants his GM to have a background in scouting. The interesting thing, I mean, this is completely against the grain of what they had. And you were talking about analytics with Farhan and what he did. The first meeting he had with season ticket holders, he talked about why you start an opener. Why you have an opener and bringing a bullpen guy out and thinking of the things outside the box. And what I loved what he said yesterday, talking about Buster Posey, he said, we get away from this, but we have to remember we're in the memory-making business. And he's so right. You know, we get away from that part of what draws us into sports, in that we are drawn to winning, and we're drawn into watching really good players or good baseball. We're in the memory-making business, and I think one of the first things he's going to have to figure out is Blake Snell. You know, do they want to sign him long term? And then do they become one of the players for Juan Soto? Like, how much are they going to spend? And that's one of the things that they'll have to face here, and I'm sure they are as we're speaking in the next few weeks, is just how aggressive they're going to be going into free agency.
As for other teams looking at this and watching this with the Giants, do you think that other teams will be looking at this and saying, maybe this is something that we should do within our own organization too? Of course, time will tell, but then it draws comparisons to what happened with the Marlins and Derek Jeter. But this feels like this is a very different situation. I know that Jeter had ownership in the Marlins, and he was more of the CEO. Do you think this will be a different outcome than what happened with Derek Jeter and the Marlins?
I guess the comp, I don't know if there is. Joe Sakic with the Avalanche might be the best comp. A guy who was a superstar, who as a player delivered championships to the city and the organization. There's a very select few of those guys that have done that, especially in recent vintage. Stan the Man did it here in 1967, but didn't really like doing the job.
What about John Lynch? Do they hope he's going to be like John Lynch with the Niners?
Right. Yeah. That's what you're hoping. But it's harder when the guy actually played for your team. It's harder to fire him if he struggles. And that's one of the things the Giants run into. But he's a very smart baseball man. And I'll be surprised if Buster Posey does not succeed. And I do believe that intelligent and open-minded front offices and ownership groups will start to look at former players more, because they understand something that the people that never played the game don't. And it's a line that Tony La Russa uses all the time. They're men, not machines. And every time I run into a hardcore analytics person, I get the sense that they think the players are robots. And just because a number applies to a guy, that's what he's going to do in a certain situation. And it just doesn't work that way.
I think to answer the question, Brooke, and it's a good question about whether other teams follow this and is this the model, first of all, time will tell, if he can win. But then the model that they use. So there are some clubs that are so analytically based, and it's follow the leader. And they start doing that, where if Buster Posey is not firing scouts and keeping boots on the ground, and that there's a place for these guys and gals to evaluate talent, then I think other teams say, you know what, maybe we've gone too far to this side, need to bring it back this way, or vice versa. But I think there's a place for both. I really do. It's unfortunate that, in my opinion, that teams have gotten away from scouts being boots on the ground and going around and seeing these young kids play. But it sounds like that he wants to keep both, but specifically looking at a scouting background, which is something that you don't hear about a lot now. It's more about the analytics in the game.
It has to be like the perfect former player in that situation. It seems like with Posey, his leadership abilities that he displayed over the years, of course, with his career with his Giants, his entire career with the Giants, that he has those capabilities, but can it translate into the business side of things now?
Well, you have business people with you. You know what I mean? So they'll be able to. That's the one thing I find really interesting is like, okay, they're going to give Buster Posey this budget and say, go get him. He's going to have lieutenants around him to help him with every single facet of this. But ultimately, it'll be in decision making with the GM of saying, I like this player, and he may not show up analytically on what you're looking at, but I like him because I played the game and this is why I like him. How many times will those decisions come down to that? And that's what I find interesting.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. And coming up on 101 ESPN, a couple of these teams that are in the playoffs didn't exactly expect to be here. And the reasons that they are interesting. That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, St. Louis-based Together Credit Union has a great idea for you. It's a brand new checking account that they have, and it's called Empower Checking. What is it, you ask? Well, with Empower Checking, you earn above-market interest on the money you keep in your day-to-day checking account. Think about that. The money you keep in your checking account is earning interest. Back when I started banking, that's the way it used to be for everybody. And now it's a rare thing, but they've got it for you at Together Credit Union. Interest is paid to you each month, and it's a checking account that rewards you for balances and not activity. To apply, all you need to do is head to one of the 14 Together Credit Union branches in the St. Louis metro area or visit togethercu.org. And they're going to work directly with you with one of their amazing member advocates. Together Credit Union is local, and they're all about St. Louis. They're all about St. Louis City SC. They're all about the Cardinals and Ballpark Village, and they're all about you as a St. Louisan. Get paid to save with Empower Checking. Visit togethercu.org/empower for full terms and details. Membership eligibility required. Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA. Last year, the New York Mets had a payroll of $300 million, a little over $300 million. It was the highest payroll in the history of baseball. And this year, they cut it down to $176 million. Padres did the same thing. They approached $300 million last year. Of course, Juan Soto was on their team. They also lost players. They lost an entire rotation when you think about it. They lost Blake Snell and Nick Martinez and Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. They lost an entire rotation, plus they traded Soto, and their payroll dropped by about $100 million. Neither the Mets nor the Padres, with their high payrolls, were in the playoffs last season. They cut payroll this year. They get new managers. They build units with their franchises rather than all-star teams, and they're in the playoffs. I wonder if there is something to be said for building a unit and being younger, because one of the things that you have to keep in mind, especially about the Mets, is that last year they had Scherzer and Verlander, and it's hard to win with starting pitchers that are 38, 39, 40 years old.
Verlander's not even on the postseason roster right now for the Astros, yeah.
So I just think that there's something to be said, and I don't know if the Cardinals are doing this out of, well, they're certainly doing it out of desire, but there's no doubt that neither the Padres nor the Mets needed to do it. They wanted to do this, and there is something to be said, I think, for having young players that are hungry and want to ultimately win and be a part of a winning team rather than just you look at a guy like Juan Soto. What did the Padres think Juan Soto was going to do this year? Everything he could to enhance his own individual value and maybe not help the team as much as he possibly could.
I think that when it comes to payroll cuts, and we're looking at this with the Cardinals, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, it's really scary if we're talking about we're going to cut the payroll where they're going to be bottom in the league when you're doing a race comp to them. You want to be able to get the most out of these players. I think with the Cardinals, when you look at their payroll, and especially where they're at this season, middle of the pack, and they did spend a lot of money, it's not about the big spending. It's about smart spending. That's the key to me about moving forward, because we saw that with the free agent signings that they've had. This is a very expensive starting rotation they put out this past season. It's about smart spending that you want to see from this group. And then when you're talking about those payroll cuts, that's what you saw from those teams.
To this point that you make, Brooke, the Cardinals almost traded for Giancarlo Stanton. And if the Cardinals have Giancarlo Stanton, he is their highest priced player. There's no doubt about it, because they would have taken on the whole contract, unlike what the Yankees did. The Yankees can afford to have Stanton on their team and have him be their fourth or fifth best player. When the Cardinals have a guy like Stanton on their team, he has to be their best player, and he has to be available all the time.
I'd also say that when young guys get a chance, they're hungry. And they're hungry to get their money. They're hungry to get to arbitration, make the most money that they can. They don't fall back on what they did. It's not a relaxed period. Now, I'd like to say for most pro athletes that they play out the contract and they give you everything they've got. But it's human nature that when you're young, you're trying to get that bite at the apple. And I think there's something to that. I really do. Now, going back to the Padres as an example, they've also had some luck in guys that got through and have been good young players for them. They may have the rookie of the year. He's not going to be, but they have one that's in contention.
Right.
You look at some of the other signings that they've made, they've worked out. So you have to have a little bit of both. You got to have a little luck, and you got to have some guys that develop too.
And Mike Schultz is as good as anybody of getting players to handle a role. They've got a couple of former Cardinals there. Donovan Solano, former Cardinal farmhands that he had in the system, Solano and Peralta, guys that he knew when they brought him in. They get rid of a guy like Trent Grisham, who's a nice player, but they replace him with Jackson Merrill, who, like you say, Dan, is very hungry. They have a guy... a guy that really could have upset the apple cart there is Xander Bogaerts when he got moved to second base. But Schultz had the political savvy to get him to move and say, hey, this is for the betterment of the team. And then when Ha-Seong Kim gets hurt, Bogaerts moves back. They go out and they're savvy enough to go get a guy who a lot of people in baseball don't like for some reason, or didn't like, at least in Luis Ariz, because they think he's a one-tool player. But the tool is probably the most valuable thing you can have on offense right now in baseball. The ability to get your bat on the ball.
He's like a rarity now in baseball. You really don't see players like him much anymore.
And they find a role for him, and he winds up being a key part of their team.
I'd love to have Luis Ariz.
I would too. I would too.
Get it, man. I'm sitting there watching the game last night, and they're like, oh, yeah, 3 different teams, couple batting titles. And then all of a sudden he takes a pitch, he lets it get deep, hits it the other way, there's a base hit. I'm like, what team couldn't use that?
Right. I remember, though, listening when they made the deal early in the season, and Steve Phillips, I was listening on the way in to us, and Steve Phillips on MLB Network said, this is a terrible trade for the Padres. I don't know why they get him. He can only do one thing. But teams, and this goes back to analytics, teams and people are so enamored of power that if a player is a good hitter that doesn't hit for power and just gets on base to set the table for your power hitters, they don't like him.
Yeah. If you look at the Padres and what they were able to do during the regular season, they led the league in batting average, and I think Luis Ariz had a lot to do with that. They were second in slugging and second in OPS. Yep. I mean, just about every category that you can think about, and Luis Ariz is a big part of that. But to your point, a lot of the young players step up. Your veteran players also playing their part, their roles. That's why I said that earlier, Mike Shildt is the X factor with that team because he was able to get things together offensively for them and have the right hitting approach.
And by the way, Carlos Mendoza has done much the same thing with the Mets. Yep. We don't watch him as much because he didn't used to manage the Cardinals. But the Mets are another franchise that has sent some people out the door, but they have a much better unit now than what they had before.
And then the flip side, to be fair, they did give Lindor a massive deal.
They did.
And that has paid off. And he was making a charge to be maybe the MVP of the National League before the stretch run here. I would also say to be interesting with the Mets, what they do with Pete Alonso. What kind of money are they going to give him? Or do they even want him back at that price tag? But there is something to, I think, having a mix of both. Like you're gonna have to spend some kind of money to get into postseason play.
No doubt.
You got to spend something. Yep. Now, it just needs to be the right guys, and hopefully you hit, but you're still going to have to spend money.
And you need TEAM. That's the biggest thing. You need players to play team ball. And that's been, I don't know if that was a difference, but that's been a Mike Shildt philosophy ever since he started in baseball.
Oh, not the philosophical differences again. I can't hear that again.
This is philosophical equality. We in this room have the same philosophy as Mike Shildt. You get them to play well, and they'll win.
Exactly. Bring the team together, as you said, Randy. So the overarching question here is, if the Cardinals do start to reduce their payroll, which they have indicated, who knows by how much, do you have a problem with it?
I don't at all. And there's two reasons for it. Number one, I don't think that the players, if the players walk out, generally, especially in this era, post-2004, players that are 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, they don't get better. They don't start throwing 98 after their fastball starts to recede. And the other part of it is, and I know this sounds weird, but Jack Buck always told me that it was not a coincidence that Stan Musial retired after 63 and the Cardinals won in 64. Because a lot of times the focus is on one guy and does get away from being the team, especially with old veteran players. And all of a sudden, the older guy leaves. It could be the best guy in the world, but everybody has a chance to breathe and get an opportunity.
I would say this, from the Cardinals' perspective next year, if I felt as an organization that we're going to win, then yeah, I'd have a real problem dumping some of these guys. But if you got to be honest with yourself, if you're not going to win, what's the point?
Yeah.
Give young players a chance to play, find out if they can do it. And some of those spots that are currently taken by veterans, is there a reason to keep them around? And the answer would probably be no.
Do you think the likelihood would be, if they would run it back with the exact same group, that they would probably win less than 83? I think they would.
Exactly. If you're factoring in age regression.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to get a better year out of Lance Lynn?
Probably
Cal
not.
Gibson, maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. And because of their age, and you talked about it, Randy, I mean, this is not the steroid era.
No.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that were 34, 35 were getting 5-year deals back in the day. In the steroid era, this is natural progression of your career is to go down.
Right.
And that's what they've got right now with some of these veterans.
And I don't have a problem with them cutting payroll. The one thing that I just didn't like, and this is just my opinion on this, is that the framing around it is that they're going to cut Major League payroll because they're moving forward with this plan to really bolster up their player development, rebuild their minor league system with coaches and stuff. I don't think that you have to do one or the other. That's my whole thought process. Is I don't have a problem with cutting the payroll. We talked about smart spending. There's, of course, some contracts that you need to part with here, so nobody has a problem with that. But it just felt like the framing of it with the press conference was that it had to be one or the other, cut Major League payroll and do their minor league system at the same time.
If they would have couched it this way, Brooke, if they would have come in and said, you know what, we screwed up because we had this first-round draft choice in McGreevy. We saw what he did down the stretch. We saw Graceffo. We know that we've got this Quinn Matthews on the way. We should have given Zach Thompson a first-round draft choice more of an opportunity. We screwed up by not giving our kids more of an opportunity, and we're going to try to rectify that mistake now. If they would have said they screwed up by adding to the payroll with the veterans, would you have given them a little bit more grace?
I would say so. Maybe if there was a little bit more of the assertion of what exactly went wrong with the minor league system.
That's if you say that, if you're willing, doesn't matter what you screw up at, if you're willing to own it and say, yeah, I screwed up, I think people will give you much more of a break.
Well, there's a reason why they're having to refocus their attention on the minor league system and their player development.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. Like, normally you have those press conferences and they're post-mortem. Like, what went wrong, and this is what we thought was going to happen. It didn't happen, so we made a mistake. You didn't really get that because it was more of an introduction of just the direction of the press conference. It was more of an introduction of Chaim Bloom and understanding that, okay, now we need to redo parts of our farm system instead of saying, well, in August we made a wrong move or we should have not. You just didn't hear any of that stuff.
And normally a press conference like that in every sport goes an hour. And they had this one set on a half hour, and I had multiple questions spinning it forward. I asked one question about the past, but I had spinning it forward questions, but obviously never got the opportunity. And hopefully we'll be able to get Chaim on the show and talk about the future, because that's what I want to ask about. I'm not here to talk about the past.
No.
Thank you, Mark.
I think we're ready to move forward.
We are. That's today's Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN. Coming up at the 4-game point of the NFL season, which teams are we all in on and who are we out on? That's next on 101 ESPN. Hi, it's Randy, and when it comes time to sell your home, you need a reliable, experienced, and trusted sales agent. Well, take it from me, and you get to know St. Louis's real estate expert. Her name is Gloria Liu, and she's with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And here is why you should call, because she already has buyers for your home. You say, how does that happen? How does she already have buyers for my home? Well, Gloria's been in the business for 20 years, and she has put together a database of thousands of ready buyers that are ready to buy in your neighborhood and in your price price range. And that's how Gloria is going to net you the most money and create the highest demand for your home, many times with multiple offers. And when you get multiple offers, that means you get more money in your pocket because there is a bidding war for your property. So if you are in the market to sell your home, maybe you want to downsize, maybe you want to upsize, maybe you want to move into that dream home, well, start by calling Gloria Lou, 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Now, Gloria will sell your home at your agreed-to price, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed in writing. As always, Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. To learn more, visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Can you believe we've already played nearly a quarter of the NFL season? Teams have played 4 games. Bye week start this week. Keep that in mind as you put together your fantasy football rosters and lineups for this week. But we want to talk about who we're all in on and who we are all out on so far in this season. And guys, I did not believe I would be saying this, but I am going to say it. I am all in on the Buffalo Bills, despite all of their losses during the offseason, despite losing Tre'Davious White, despite losing, they have lost Von Miller now. He got suspended for 4 games this morning. But despite losing pass rushers, despite losing Stephon Diggs, that's a team that has had a great start, and Josh Allen is playing at a level that he's never played for before. So one team of 2 that I'm all in on is the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I like the Bills a lot, especially Josh Allen this year. There'd be all this talk about what he would look like without Diggs, and things look just fine for Josh Allen, what he's able to do.
Yep.
The Bills look great right now. Now, the team that I'm all in on is, I think we finally can give the Vikings a lot of credit. There's some people who are just waiting for the wheels to fall off and say, look, you see, you can't have Sam Darnold being your quarterback, your QB number 1. I'm all but in on Sam Darnold and the Vikings stock right now. I believe it.
Yeah, I'm in on Minnesota. I mentioned this yesterday. They entered the preseason with an expected win total, according to FanDuel, of 6.5 wins. They could have started out this season, schedule-wise, if you looked at it, 0-8. Looked like a possibility given the brutal early season schedule, but they've got now wins over contenders. I mean, you're talking about Green Bay, you're talking about Houston, you're talking about San Francisco. Sam Darnold, as Brooke, you mentioned, has resurrected his career. Justin Jefferson is a complete freak. Aaron Jones is averaging 5 yards a carry. I'm in on Minnesota. Why could I not? I mean, they were up 28-0 at Green Bay in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, they were.
It was unbelievable.
Rolling, yeah. The other team that I'm all in on, I have my Bills from the AFC. From the NFC, you've got a Super Bowl head coach. You've got a dynamic rookie quarterback. You've loaded up talent on both sides of the ball. Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, and the Washington Commanders are 3-1, and I think they're going to win the NFC East, kids.
That was my other team. I mean, he has been unbelievable. You know, since 2000, Washington has used 27 different QBs. 27, and they finally got the right guy, and it's amazing. And we talked about this before, but the fact is, when you see the guys that have college experience, and he had 55 starts in college at Arizona State and LSU, they're different players when they get in the league. They have experience.
Yep. Jaden Daniels looks fantastic. I've said it a million times, but he was the steal of the draft, honestly.
And with the second pick, he was the steal of the draft. I think you're right.
I think so. Well, because everybody talked about Caleb Williams going in. And I don't know, with the situation, if you would have put Jaden Daniels with the Bears, do you think he would have the same success?
Yes.
I do too.
I do too.
Yep.
I believe it.
Yep.
There was a report that came out, and it always is funny after the fact, but there was rumblings from a front office in Washington saying that they actually preferred Daniels over Caleb Williams.
I saw that, yeah. Just imagine what would have happened in that situation. So the team that I'm not bought in on right now, I think this is pretty clear. It's the only team that still hasn't won a game right now in the NFL, and that's the Jags. Trevor Lawrence getting that big contract, and then this is how we are going into the season. And look, you can put it on the coaching, and I wouldn't disagree with you there, because I would wonder if he would look better with a different coaching staff. But at the same time, you do have to look at Trevor Lawrence too.
I attributed the stretch run of the Jags last year to Lawrence's injuries. And it appears now, when you look at what happened down the stretch with Doug Peterson in Philly and where they are, where the Jaguars are now, maybe it is a coaching issue. And I keep thinking of this, and they were having this discussion this morning on Sportsmanlike, and they decided that the biggest enigma in the NFL is Trevor Lawrence. And I look at it this way, because I think he is. I think if you plug Trevor Lawrence in right now as the Miami Dolphins quarterback, and I think he's great, and I think they're great. Trevor Lawrence throwing it around to Hill and Waddle and handing it off to a Chain or whatever. I think that he would be great. I just think he's in a bad situation. They had Calvin Ridley. They let him get away. They did make a nice draft choice to replace him. But I still don't think that, he has the best tools around him. And I think he's not an elevator. He's a guy that needs tools. But the other thing is, they have good names on their offensive line, but their offensive line is not playing well. He's under siege.
I had this as being my most disappointing team because of the fact that they paid him so much money. And then I went back and looked at what he has done since 2021. Most giveaways, third most interceptions, second most fumbles lost. I mean, he's been awful at times.
Yeah.
And it just, I think because of where he was in the draft and the fact that they've given him so much money, maybe this just is who he is.
It could be. The other one, and I'm thrilled to be all out on, are the LA Rams. Fourth from the bottom of the league in point differential. They're 1-3. They blow leads. They lose at Chicago. Just everything about it thrills me. So I'm all out on the Rams. By the way, I texted DeMarco during the game on Sunday. I said, man, these teams in this stadium, I can't help but think of Tony Banks being ejected. An NFL starting quarterback got ejected from an NFL game in 1996. Think about that.
What did DeMarco have to say?
It was something like, I remember that. He got in a fight, didn't he?
Yeah.
But DeMarco is handling it very well. His line was, all grins here. So he's handling it well. I'm got a ring.
I'm a little concerned about the Jets. And I was all in with Aaron Rodgers and what he was doing, but he was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. He admitted he's a little banged up. His knee is a little swollen. It was a 10-9 loss to the Broncos. He and his head coach are kind of butting heads. There were some plays in which he was trying to connect with his young wide receivers. At the end, they were not on the same page. I could see that thing going south if if they don't get some wins.
Report this morning that the Jets have checked in on Davante Adams, who has requested a trade from the Raiders.
Oh, a reunion.
Yeah. Jets and Cowboys reportedly have checked in. Why the Colts wouldn't check in on Davante Adams, I don't know. If the Raiders only want a second-round pick and something else, the Raiders or the Colts don't have any receivers.
No.
Well, sorry about that. You've got Michael Pittman.
They got Joe Flacco, though.
I do.
Randy.
Yeah.
He's been just fine.
Yeah, but Davante Adams would change the dynamic of that team. They haven't had any explosion for years, and Davante Adams would be great for the Colts. But if Aaron Rodgers is still the general manager of the Jets, which we have every reason to believe, then they'll probably wind up with Devontae Adams, won't
You're
they?
right, though. With Aaron Rodgers, though, he didn't look great in that last game.
No.
And I don't know if weather also had a factor in that, too, but he just did not look great at that game.
How about the Chiefs? What are they going to do in terms of going to find help if Rice is done for the year?
Hollywood!
Now, you got to wait for him to get back.
He's only a couple weeks away.
Is that what they say now?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen varying reports
Really?
that he's going to miss a ton of time. I've heard a couple weeks, but they need help. It's amazing, though, how they continue to win games. They find ways to win.
There's a guy in Patrick Mahomes that does elevate the players around him,
For
doesn't
sure.
he?
Fourth quarter, it's ball in his hands. He's going to make a play. They got Kelsey more involved, I thought, over the weekend.
Yeah.
That's going to be a factor for them. And then the other thing that no one, at least in my mind, they don't talk about enough because it's Kelsey and Mahomes, but defensively, just how good they are.
Yeah.
I mean,
Spags.
they keep their team in games, man. Find a way to win.
Play this
Spags
weekend.
may be the best defensive coordinator in the history of the league.
Might be.
Oh, he deserves it. I was
Yeah.
going to say, Mahomes did make a play. It was a play that took out his receiver.
Well, it
Wah, wah.
happens.
Yeah, it did. That was a really rough moment to see.
What are you looking at, Brandel?
I'm just trying to see if there was anything later on
Hollywood?
Marquise Brown. Yeah, I had seen something, and he's still got a couple weeks left of IR, but I'd seen that his shoulder was doing better, and that he thought he was going to be able to come back. So we'll keep. But they
A few weeks ago, ESPN said he could be out. He could be out till January.
Okay,
That was mid-September.
Yeah, Juju is there and back and getting involved. Xavier Worthy clearly is getting better. They still have Hardman around. There's the number 24, Sky Moore, is still around. So they've got some guys that they can take a shot with. That is our look at the NFL today. And coming up, our final hit of the year with our buddy, Cardinal right-hander Kyle Gibson is next on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to know about Mentality. My friends at Mentality have done such an amazing job over the years of getting people like you and like me to feel better. And when you use Mentality, what they're going to do is use an FDA-approved testosterone treatment to get your testosterone level back to where it was when you were in your 20s. And a lot of times, all times, guys lose energy as they get older, and they attribute it to getting older. Well, it really comes down to losing your testosterone level. When you get your testosterone level back, you get your energy level back. And a lot of times when you lose your testosterone level, it goes down. Then you have problems with anxiety. You don't feel as sharp mentally as you used to. All of these problems can be solved if you join thousands of St. Louis guys and get to Mentality. Go to lowtusa.com to get started. Make an appointment at one of the great facilities in Chesterfield and in South County. And when you go to Mentality, they're going to do a complete panel of your blood work, get your testosterone level, and then get it back to where it needs to be. Tell them Randy sent you. You'll love the results. You'll love feeling better about yourself and what you can do with Mentality.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, day one of the MLB playoffs. Tigers over the Astros 3-1. Royals over the Orioles 1-0. Mets take a 1-0 lead in their series over the Brewers with an 8-4 victory, and the Padres over the Braves 4-0. You can hear Game 2 of that Braves and Padres series. The Braves look to tie things up at one game apiece tonight on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 7 p.m. Last night, Blues fall to the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-1. They are 1-4 in the preseason. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Crimsley, Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker, opening drive, 101 ESPN. And every Wednesday during this 2024 baseball season, we've had the great good fortune of being able to visit with Kyle Gibson, who has become a friend and one of our favorites. And Kyle from the Cardinals and Big League Impact joins us now on the Celebrity Line. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
Doing well. And let's start with this, and we'll hit it at the end of the interview as well. But October 26th is the Big League Impact Big League Blast, helping feed neighbors in need at the St. Louis Skeet and Trap Club. And I know it's not even a labor of love. It's just an item of love for Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, this is one of the events that we've hosted a few times, and it's been a little spotty past years just because of, being in other cities and, trying to prepare for playoffs or not being able to be back and get stuff done. But this year we're going to host it. As usual, we're going to have 8 to 10 current and former big leaguers come in and shoot some clay birds with people that want to donate some money and show up and shoot for the day. It's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of great things to either win through a raffle or bid on if you'd like. But like you said, we're going to try to help support 3 or 4 different backpack feeding programs around Franklin County out here. There's a lot of kids and a lot of families that are still struggling, and putting food on the table is one of the most important things a family can do for a kid, a Saturday and Sunday before they go to school on Monday. So that's our goal, is to raise some money and help those backpack feeding programs really make a difference and bridge the weekend food gap for kids and families.
Kyle, you are at your core a very charitable guy, so it must have just driven you crazy to have that pesky World Series interfere with the clay shoot a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was so tough having to move the event because of that. Thankfully, everybody who said they would come graciously agreed to allow us to move it back a week, and we ended up doing it the next week. So it was a fun reason to tell every time why we had to move it. Unfortunately, there were some Cardinals fans who were not happy every time I brought that up that we had to move it, but still very thankful for everybody who came out. And if you haven't been there, we've actually had people show up who have never shot a shotgun. And then you get a lesson on, obviously, gun safety, and you're never shooting toward anybody because of how the course is set up. And it's a really fun time to learn and see if you're any good at doing something for the first time.
Kyle, it's been so great to have you on this season, and we've really appreciated your insight and what you've been able to talk about with us. And just reflecting on this past season, you guys finished with a winning record, 83 wins, and so that's definitely an improvement from last year. How would you describe this 2024 season for the Cardinals?
It was a season of obvious up and downs, and I think other than just the obvious win-loss, I think we had some injuries here and there that obviously played a big part. Tommy Edman being injured, I think, was a big part for the team. Wilson Contreras having a couple fluke injuries were big. The Keenan Middleton injury. I know that doesn't seem like much, but our bullpen threw really well. But he was going to be a guy that even lengthened that bullpen out even more, and could have played a really big role as well. So there were a few things that didn't go our way, but I think one telling number that I look at when people ask me, was this team, good, or what happened, or the questions I get is, if you look at how many close games we were in, I think we played in 100 or 105 games that were decided by 3 runs or less. And we did really well in those games for the most part. I think we had the second most one-run wins. Those are just numbers that indicate that the team is a pretty good team, because you just don't, normally bad teams get beat by a lot of runs. And I think we had a good team. I think there were a few games here and there that obviously we didn't play our best baseball. And when you look back, maybe the sweep in Toronto, the sweep in Cincinnati, there were a couple inopportune times that we just played some not great baseball. And you look back, and that's probably really what cost us a chance at the playoffs.
Kyle, the season literally ended on Sunday, 3 days ago. Have you heard from the Cardinals at all? Everybody knows what your situation is. Have you heard from the Cardinals at all?
No, not regarding the option. I had a chance to have a lot of really good conversations with coaches and staff, and I know there's, just from reports that I've heard, there's changes coming throughout the organization. So I'm going to sit here in Franklin County and enjoy the family here for the next few weeks, and I wouldn't expect a decision on some of those things until later on in the month, or even right after the World Series. So I'm sure I'll hear from them at some point and hopefully have some good conversations with them. But this is an exciting team, and I know however Cardinals fans want to look at this season, I really think it's a team that has a chance to make a good step forward with just a little bit of fortunate luck with health and winning 3 to 4 more of those close games. I mean, that's crazy to think, but that's the difference this year.
It really is. Kyle, you mentioned hanging out with your family. How did playing here live up to what your expectations were of being able to play here? Because you've wanted to do this for a long time. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, it met every expectation. Being able to wear the birds on the bat was a lot of fun, and seeing what that means. And I've seen it, from a small distance, right? But being in it and being in Busch Stadium every day, and feeling that pride of having the birds on the bat was everything I could have hoped for. And obviously the benefits that, I obviously were looking to take advantage of was being close to my family. And that was big. We had a couple different instances throughout the year that just was really beneficial for me to be able to be back here and be able to help Elizabeth with, or be able to help the kids through. And, that played out to being exactly what I needed it to be.
Kyle, for you, and this might be hard when you're just talking about reflecting about all the memories from the season. Was there a favorite moment of yours? It could have been a game. It could have been just hanging out with Lance Lynn. It sounded like you guys had a lot of fun together. Was there a favorite moment for you this season?
Wow, favorite moment for me. I think seeing, being there for opening day and people told me, do 2 things. One, go out and stand next to the Clydesdales in the concourse underneath before they go out, and then hurry up and go to the dugout and be there when they run by. I'm glad I did that. That was cool. Those things are majestic and obviously a big part of the tradition on opening day here in St. Louis. I think one of the really cool moments was Tommy Pham's first game when he came and he hit the homer and how loud Busch Stadium got. That place was rocking, and just the energy there that night was incredible. Man, there's quite a few really, whether it's, like you said with Lance Lynn, never a dull moment when that guy's around, you're on a road trip or on a plane flight. But we had a group that was pretty close and did a lot of things together, whether it was eating dinners or playing golf or, just hanging out in hotel rooms when you get on the road. It was a pretty fun group.
She was fishing for every Wednesday morning, basically.
I was, a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Holy smokes, what was I thinking? I mean, you mentioned the team and in the locker room when, obviously, had you spent my entire time in St. Louis, Wednesday mornings with the crew would have been obviously at the top of the list. I apologize.
So, hey, Kyle, you mentioned how close this team is. And as we mentioned, you not only played on a World Series team a couple of years ago in Philly, but you played on playoff teams in Minnesota. You played on good teams in Texas. What do you think it is that the Cardinals need to get over the hump?
That's a good question. I think, wow, that's on the spot. Really, really good question. I mean, I honestly think if I look at this team and if you were to say, hey, we're going to have the same team going into 2025, and we're going to, maybe a piece here just because you never have the same team. And I was a part of it. I would show up to spring training and say, hey, we have no reason to not be confident. Because I really do think we have a playoff team in that locker room. Whether people think that's crazy or delusional, whatever it is, I just don't think I don't think you can look past the fact that when you play in so many close games, there's one or two plays in that game that really change the outcome of that game. And the fact that if you flip a few of those games, we're a 90-plus win team very easily. I think I'm not one to think that we need or to come out and say, hey, we need this position or that position, because one, I think, it talks a little bit about the player that played there this year. And I don't really want to do that because I think we had in every position, I think we had players who can be impact players, and, maybe they struggled for a week or two here or a month here, whatever it is. But we have a team right now that can make the playoffs, and I truly believe that.
I want to build upon that, because in talking to your skipper and in talking to some of your younger teammates, your name comes up as not only a leader of the pitching staff, but as a leader of the team. How much pride do you take in that when people, and this was pretty much all unsolicited, people say, man, Kyle Gibson makes a difference with this room, and it translates to the field. How much pride do you take in that?
I don't know. I think, and not to pick at the question, right? I think there's certain things that I try to make sure I don't take pride in, right? Because just pride in general for me is, more of an inward looking kind of pumping yourself up. And I try to not do that. But I think that you're only a leader if you're doing things or saying things that cause people to want to follow you. And I think from a young age, my mom and dad instilled in me, every day I'd get out of the car going to school, my dad would say, hey, go be a leader today. And he really was just saying that because he wanted to make sure that I was making decisions that I wanted to do, and I was saying things that I wanted to say, and then hopefully I was doing it in a way that people would want to, do the same thing or say the same thing. And I think for me, I try to believe in who I am, and I try to know how I go about my business, and hopefully I'm doing it in a way that is infectious and encouraging to the people around me. And that's really my goal. And I only get to make the team or give the team a chance to win 1 out of 5 days. So the other 4 out of 5, how can I go about my business to hopefully lift people up, say the right thing, answer the question the right way, and be available to people who have questions. So, it was a pleasure being in that locker room, and hopefully I get a chance to do it again.
What a great answer. We really appreciate that. Okay, final thing, October 26th, again, it's the Big League Blast Sporting Clay Shoot at the St. Louis Skeet and Trap Club. Do you have any names nailed down yet for people, the big league players that are going to join you out in Pacific?
I do. So Ryan Helsley, Goldie, and Lance are for sure in from this team. Brad Thompson, y'all's fellow friend there at 101 ESPN, and the Cardinals will be there. A name that I'm excited about who's going to be back in town is Pete Fairbanks from the Rays, a local guy, and he's going to be there. I've got a couple guys who are in the playoffs right now, so I don't want to necessarily name them because, one, I hope they make it to the World Series and get to play, but as soon as they're out, if they are, then, we'll announce those. But a couple local guys and then one who's a little bit farther away. But hoping to also get a couple more alumni as well, just waiting to hear back from them. But it's going to be a fun time, and there's going to be hopefully a good representation of different teams around the league, which I think to me, offers a different aspect to Cardinals fans and local baseball fans as well.
Should be great. You can get more information at bigleagueimpact.org. Big League Blast Saturday, October 26th. And it's going to be in Pacific at the St. Louis Skeet and Trap Club. Kyle Gibson, thank you so much for joining us all year. We really appreciated it. And as we move closer to October 26th, heck, we're only 3.5 weeks away. But if you get names and you need help, you know that you have an open invitation on this station.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. And, Brooke, just so you know, you guys have my contact information. If you'd like to to have another interview, I am more than happy to come on. So I don't want this to have to end now. This was one of my favorite things of 2024. So just want to make sure that's clear.
I knew it had to have been up there at the top. I know there was a lot of memories made this season. I knew we had to be somewhere up there at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Take care. Have a great day. Kyle Gibson with us on 101 ESPN. He's terrific. Coming up, we're going to head down the stretch with Rocc and Roll. We've got Thomas Rhett tickets to give away. He's got a concert coming up. Thomas Rhett, June 7th at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. And we're going to give away tickets. Matthew is going to have a question that Dan isn't going to answer.
Well, who knows?
I can't
tuned.
talk right now, so I won't answer it.
Next on 101 ESPN. I talk to you a lot about AutoLoanPro.com. I bought my car and got my financing through AutoLoanPro.com, and I'm telling you, they're great to work with. If you're looking for the best financing for your vehicle, wherever you buy it, go to AutoLoanPro.com to get started, because you think about it, when you go in to buy a car, they're going to send you into the finance manager's office, and he'll say, yeah, we've got a couple of rates for you. At AutoLoanPro, they're working with over 50 different lenders to get you the best rate possible. And when you go to AutoLoanPro.com, you can download their playbook and learn how you can most effectively borrow money to buy a new car. But they've also got in their drop-down menu if you'd like to buy a car. And that's how I got my new vehicle. I had a vehicle that was totaled, needed a new car in a hurry, went to AutoLoanPro.com, and that's the way I bought it. You know, with a loan, sometimes it's hard because you get into bad circumstances, and anybody can get into those. But if you can make a payment, AutoLoanPro.com can get you a loan. The Auto Loan Pro works with all of those lenders, and if you're financing a car, there's only one thing to know. Choose the Auto Loan Pro at AutoLoanPro.com.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
I got to tell you guys.
Montreal.
I got this. I got this problem with my computer. So we've had our IT guy, Drew, who's a great IT guy. Now, a couple times in the last couple of weeks, he says, Randy, there's a problem with your computer. And I swear to God, I'm not doing anything untoward. I'm not looking at weird stuff. But my internet access is blocked by the people up at corporate in Minnesota, and I have no idea why. I'm not doing anything wrong. So I guess I did work at a radio station one time. I've spent my entire career in sports, right? I worked at a radio station one time where they blocked access to fantasy football. I was a sports guy, and they blocked access to fantasy football at this company.
Why?
Because a lot of companies do it, and I think it was just... because they don't want you wasting your productive time. And I think they just got a company that said, okay, well, run our website or, run our internet. And so they figured, employees shouldn't be allowed to play fantasy football. Well, I had to. I was a sports guy.
It's part of my job.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're trying to send me an email... I'll just tell you now that through no fault of my own, apparently, my internet access is blocked.
Are you sure that you're not doing anything that's getting you shut down?
Good call.
The IT guy said no, so I guess not. Now, here's something that you need to know. The opening drive has your shot to score a pair of tickets to see Thomas Rhett on Saturday, June 7th at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. He's a country star. Name a Thomas Rhett song. Anybody? Anybody? Okay.
I forgot.
Tickets for
I used
Thomas
to like
Rhett.
his music, but I can't remember.
You're going to the concert. Tickets for Thomas Rhett are on sale now. You can find all the details and a bonus chance to register to win tickets at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 app. But the other thing you can do is text in right now to 314-399-9646. 314-399-YOHO to win free tickets if you answer Matthew Rocchio's great question.
Yeah, I'm going to burn what could be a fight question, but it's too open-ended.
I'll answer it.
Randy could potentially take like 9 minutes to answer this question if he doesn't use his options. And so I'm pulling it off of my bench for fight questions, and we're just going to use it here.
Okay, good.
Between the numbers 1 and 20, what is the only uniform number that has not been worn by a starting quarterback in a Super Bowl? Between the numbers 1 and 20.
Including 20?
No. Between the numbers 1 and 19, including 19, including 1, not including 0 or 20. Between those numbers, only one of them has never been worn by a starter in a Super Bowl. Which uniform number is it? And this is why, because Randy would sit there and go, well, he was 17 and he was 12 and he was 14.
I think I know it.
Don't say it out loud.
Don't say it out loud.
I'm not going to say it out loud.
And again, not winner. Just you got to start this. You got to start the game. Actually, I don't even I don't even know if playing the game would count based on where I got the stat. I'm pretty sure just starting the game.
Okay, I think I know it for sure.
Let's say it.
There's a guy in the league right now that's wearing it.
I'm not even going to check to confirm that. I'll just take your word for it.
There is.
I think there is. Yeah, you're right.
Take your word for it.
That's all I got. I'm not even going to play the audio we have. It's 9:58.
So I found a Thomas Rhett song for you. Mama's House.
Mama's House. Okay, good.
That's what I called one of my grandparents. Was Mama and Papa. What did you call your grandparents?
Grandma and Grandpa.
Is it just a Southern thing to say Mama and Papa?
No, I don't think so.
I think it's a different families.
What's the Italian thing, Rock?
Really deep down Italian families go Nonna and Nonna and I always forget what Grandpa is because I only ever hear my Italian friends call their grandma Nonna. I never hear them say what their what Grandpa is. I was Grandma and Grandpa.
What do your kids call Grandma?
Papa.
Grandpa, Papa?
Nana and Papa.
Nana
yeah,
and Papa. There you go.
And on the other side though, it's Grandma. Actually, they call her Wawa.
Wawa, there you go.
Yeah, that's another popular one.
Yeah.
I had Mama and Papa, and then I was a very literal child. I had Japanese grandma. I would really say Japanese grandma.
Japanese grandma. Oh,
so it was easy to differentiate between the two grandmas.
I wonder if there's ever a grandkid that calls their grandmother wah wah.
It doesn't go like that.
Okay.
It's my mom, and she's listening, and she's the best. That's Wawa. I guarantee she's listening.
Okay.
Yeah. Jane in South City.
Hello, Mommy Mac. Mama Mac.
Mama Mac.
There we go. We've got a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up here on 101 ESPN, followed by BK and Ferrario, and then the Fast Lane from 2 to 6. Today is 10-2, so that means we have Padres and Braves tonight at 7 o'clock. Yes, sir.
What's your guess?
6, Baker Mayfield still playing?
You are 100% correct.
Wilson?
There has never been a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl to wear the number 6. Damn, you got there a lot faster than I expected. Holy crap. If it was in the fight, would you have sat there and gone, well, here's a 2, here's a 3, here's a 4, here.
I did that.
He would have, and so I wanted to use it as a fight question, but I was just, the chance that you would take too long to answer it was too likely. But yeah, 6,
I think
nicely
I got
done.
it within a minute.
Damn, that was impressive.
That was
good.
Baker Mayfield wearing number 6. Mark Wilson, former Raider, wore number 6.
Wow.
Yeah, bad.
That was good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
That was good.
We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. For all of us until tomorrow morning at 7. By the way, Kurt Warner tomorrow at 9:15 as we celebrate 25 years of the greatest show on turf. Kurt's tomorrow at 9:15. For all of us until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, have a fabulous hump day, St. Louis.